public meeting will now call to order. What is it? Roll call.
Randy Brockway,
Here.
Lisa Gaynor. Here. David Kadama,
Here.
Rachel Morello. Here. Michael O'Brien,
Here.
Arthur Perry, Mary Rose Mangia.
Here. All right, thank you. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is the public hearing for the regarding the Illinois State Board of Education holiday waiver. ISB designates 5 holidays, and I guess those are, Bob, and I'm going to ask you if you don't mind, or I'll struggle through them. I can struggle through them here. But they are, I guess, the designated holidays are
Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King, Casimir Pulaski, Veterans Day, Lincoln's birthday, and what would be
Columbus Day.
Columbus Day. And we are, which would be, they're designated days off, but we are allowed to hold school on any of those days. But we must have a public hearing. And the 3 that we're proposing to have school attendance are not Martin Luther King, Casimir Pulaski, Lincoln's birthday, and Veterans Day. So I'm opening the floor to public comments on this waiver. Yes.
I signed in for this meeting and for the next one.
All right. Are
I'm
you?
Julie, I'm the first one on it.
You're Julie.
I'm Julie Lobby, 505 York Road, and I have students at Blythe Park.
Okay.
In regards to the holidays, you know, Martin Luther King Memorial Day, I was a teacher, is very important, but being that I'm a PTA board member at Blythe, I hear from a lot of parents that they just took weeks off for vacation during Christmas, and now when Martin Luther King Day came up so soon after they were gone from work, that was a struggle for some of them. So I'm thinking, especially when you just said Lincoln's birthday, I didn't know that's when you're concerned. I think the theme for the state of Illinois with Lincoln, land of Lincoln, I would consider switching those 2 because parents, I mean, they just got done with 2-week vacation, and it's really nice to get them back in the swing of things and not have a day off so soon, especially being that they came back 2 days later
So
with the weather.
let me see if I can make sure I understand that you feel that it would be better to attend school on Martin Luther King's birthday and have the day off at Lincoln's birthday instead because because we are the land of Lincoln.
Right, and plus for the parents that were coming to me, being a PTA board member and stuff, they were even accommodating. It was really hard for some of them yesterday because they took off 2 extra days during vacation when they came back early. And it was really hard on about 25, 30 parents at least at Blythe, that they had to struggle another day after taking off 2 extra emergency days.
Okay, and that was for the weather,
Yeah,
is that correct?
yeah. So
All right.
that's representing some of those parents that couldn't be here.
All right.
Thank you.
And Audrey? Corson?
next.
Also, another person who's asked to speak is Audrey on this topic?
Not on this topic,
All right, so this will be on the next,
on the regular business.
okay. All right, so that's our public hearing. And I guess with those comments, if there are no other, we will adjourn our public hearing. I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
All right, public hearing's adjourned. All right, we will now open our regular business meeting with a call, I'm calling it to order, and with a roll call vote.
Lisa Gaynor,
Here.
David Kadama,
Here.
Michael O'Brien,
Here.
Arthur Perry, Randy Brockway,
Here.
Rachel Morello,
Here.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Here. All right. We will open this session of today's meeting for public comments. And again, Julie, and Audrey will both apply to speak.
So again, Julie Bobby, 505 York Road, students at Blythe Park. A couple quick topics for tonight. First, obviously, representing a lot of parents and PTA at Blythe Park. We know everything that's going on, that Mr. Gubone is leaving, and we all respect his decision, and we're going to wish him the best and give him the best send-off that Blythe Park has probably ever done for a principal. But for those that don't know Mr. Gubone, we want you to know what an open door policy he has, how he gets down to the kids' level, whether they're a kindergartner, whether they're a 4th or 5th grader. If he sees them at the junior high, he still remembers them. He was standing out there in this bitter cold weather below 0 wind chills when the patrols weren't out there because he was concerned with the kids' safety. So we're hoping, and I'm asking to be on the interviewing committee as you had parents on the other previous committees for principals, because we would like to get a principal similar with that open door policy, who's down to earth, who's nice, but who's very well educated and knows the curriculum, who knows the standards that we're trying to do with Common Core, who really is going to be there for the parents. Because we deal with you guys, obviously, but it's a principal that we're dealing with every month. So we're hoping to get a principal with that same demeanor and that same, should we say, professionalism, communication ability. The other thing I want to tell you is we love our staff at Blythe Park, so unless a teacher or someone applies to move, please don't take anyone away from Blythe Park. We like Ms. Hilfridge, we like our staff, so unless someone applies to teach something different, we hope that they all stay and all that, although some I know will be retiring. One last point for you guys. I know what you're going through with all the work you have, so you don't probably hear it enough. I do thank you for doing your job. With 5 kids, my mom was on the board for over 7 years, was president for a few years, and so I know the hours you put in, the time you put in, and your dedication, because it does take a lot of hours. So I thank you for everything that you're doing too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Audrey?
Good evening. My name is Audrey Korsland. I have an 8th grader at Hauser. I live at 270 Maplewood Road, Riverside. I am president of the Hauser PTO for the 2nd year, and the previous year was as treasurer. I stand before you to express my thoughts regarding the recent vacancy of our school principal. For 3 years, I have spent time with Leslie Berman every single month. We work together to set agendas for PTO meetings, where she's always brought a delightful energy and communication regarding how proud she was at the current events going on at Hauser. Leslie loves Hauser, she loves the kids, and she loves her job. I never heard her say one negative thing about anyone. She understood she was a public servant, and she took that responsibility seriously. She pushed back on anything that would jeopardize the security of the school, staff, or kids. We discussed social media constantly, and she spoke to us often about the balance between promoting our fundraising and the responsibility of making sure the children and families are safe from any cyber harm. We pushed her to her hard line, and we always found common ground and respect for mutual goals. She was against those bumper stickers that read, "My kid is on the honor roll," because she recognized that as an elitist and non-inclusive attitude. She brought good programs to the school, such as Cougar Advance, that teaches trust and teamwork. It is not math or English. Not all parents or kids loved the program, but many, many did. While one student's life may be energized by winning a geography bee, some are energized by learning the concept of trust and self-confidence to stand down peer pressure. That is education and life skills. She brought encore classes to Hauser. Again, some like them, some don't. I sure enjoyed it when I told my son that we could remodel the basement after we got a layout of what we want so we can go get bids. The next day I had a 1/4-inch scale layout of my entire basement from what he learned in designing spaces. That is education and a life skill. This past fall something changed. Leslie became less and less cheerful and self-assured. I was very surprised to see on the district website that the assistant principal was moved to a direct report of the superintendent. Was there intent to undermine the principal months ago? Our exchanges became more of, "I'll have to get back to you," versus making a decision like she always had. When individuals are singled out as the new regime, Then it is the nature of job security of employees to align with that new regime. Leslie became more and more isolated from her staff, she once told me. I don't know the specifics, but I know the symptoms. With just a few short months as superintendent, how can you come to the conclusion that Leslie was not worthy of the support of a vice principal? How could a valued principal of over 7 years be so disrespected and disposable unless there was motive to do so? Hauser Food Drive is the oldest and most treasured tradition in District 96. I was nervous about the success of the event because the PTO had a new 6th grade chair and we knew Ms. Bissinger could not participate this year. Then Ms. Weston, who helped in previous years, withdrew her support as well, which left me stunned. So Leslie, Romy, myself worked very hard along with the valuable help from Ms. Blondin and Ms. Braybeck. It troubled me that the vice principal delegated her work to the principal. Leslie didn't say one bad word about the situation and just worked to get the job done. It was Leslie that came up with the incentive to increase cash donations after a very slow start, and we went from $1,500 to $9,000 in 1 week. It worked, and the community owes her a very big thank you. The tradition of students building towers of food, which they help donate, is an education and a life skill. What happened, I do not know. Leslie continued not to share any bad words against anybody. I do not know one thing. I do know one thing. She is not flighty or irresponsible. She didn't pack up and leave because she had a bad day. My experience tells me she had integrity and intelligence to see what lies ahead. Vacancy and turnover are costly. Someone has to pay for vacancy, and it is most always falls on the tenants. With the vacancy of Mary Polk, we pay. For the vacancy of Leslie Berman, we pay. Who is running our school? Why did this happen? Why do we continue to pay for turnover? Why couldn't Leslie be given the respect to complete the 1-year contract and let her retire with dignity? Now we have more vacancies and new educators in the district than ever before. Is this leadership, or is this self-serving goal making? Why was Leslie given a contract at all? As a taxpayer, I was hopeful this board would seek stability and respectability. I see more problems which ultimately will lead to more costly mishaps, and I am disappointed. How much is the board informed of personnel changes? I continue to fully support our vice principal and superintendent for the trust the PTO has invested in me, and I have no personal animosity towards individuals, but rather the system that allows and tolerates it. Leslie deserves more than this. If anybody complains about not being able to find Leslie or did not see her as accessible, must not have tried very hard. I know that her first priority was accessibility. Something pushed her to leave the job she loved, and I can only imagine her devastation waking the next day not to be with the staff and the kids. I didn't know the names of her daughter or grandchild because we didn't have that type of relationship. She was liked by many, maybe not all, but she deserved better. I speak tonight because of the questions asked of me from parents looking for answers. This is not my style to speak publicly, but as a parent and PTO president, I have firsthand experience with something that went very wrong and could have been avoided. Culture of any organization begins at the top. Thank you, District 96 Board, for the tireless work you do, and I hope this situation is avoided in the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. As you know, we have the least flexibility of anything we can comment on. We have the least flexibility to do so in personnel matters, but I want to assure you that we are listening. Thank you. Right, on to our next agenda item. We do not have any current FOIA.
Do now.
All right. I have no announcements, but I would like to welcome our presenters from Net 56. Bruce Coach, thank you. Mind stepping up?
First of all, thank you for coming, and your associate, Ms. Robinson. But we've been working as a leadership team to meet with Bruce. One of the research endeavors that you've asked us to also look at is outsourcing technology production. So Bruce is here representing his company, he's going to give us a little information about it, and then when we get to the cost section of it, we're going to share with you that due to some recent changes, we may have to update and upgrade the costs for you, so we'll provide those to you at a later time. But this is more of a fact-finding educational forum for all of us.
All right, thank you.
I'd like to introduce Don Robinson. He's our CEO. He's in charge of all field operations. So I brought Don along. He handles a lot of the day-to-day school issues for us. Our company's Net 56. I'll give you, my name's Bruce Koch, President and CEO. I started the company. Give you a little background on myself. I've been in technology for over 30 years. Was a consultant for Fortune 1000 for many years. I've designed 500 node WANs across the country, negotiated multi-million dollar communication contracts for corporations, designed gateways, internet gateways for major corporations. A lot of good background, worked with IBM Global Services a lot in the past. Flew in a plane a lot, and I was kind of getting tired of that. And as I tell the story, I watched my kids every time I saw them. It was like this because I was always gone. So I started thinking about what I could do a little more locally, and we started building a data center in Palatine. Got into what's called VPN today, before it was VPN. Moved on with a lot of technology, still doing corporates, and about 15 years ago, got involved with school districts. And been doing school districts ever since. So it's a little brief history of the company from where that standpoint. There we go. So a little bit of background on who Net 56 is, which I just did. The benefits of a local technology partnership. One of the things that brings to the point of technology is, especially today, I've watched this happen over 15 years, is the technology is so vast and complex today. A lot of people think it's simpler. It's actually more complex. There's many different types of devices, many different operating systems, many applications, cloud-based, local-based. I mean, we could be Unix-based servers, we have SANs, we talk about SANs, we talk about high-speed networks. Things are actually really, quite frankly, more complex. And we add more and more devices to them, which are making them more complex. How are we different? Well, traditionally, you, as you have been, hire staff, you build your staff in-house, you train your staff in-house. They have to manage the network, they have to do the day-to-day process and somehow get a grasp on all these technologies. At Net 56, we incorporate a full team of database analyze. Our database managers, our NOC managers, we know firewall security, encryption technology, mail systems, networks, WANs. We have staff of people that are all trained. They go continually get trained in those fields, and they bring that to the table. So when you work with a technology partner and you come in and you say, we like to do this, we like to go to this device and that device, it really isn't about something about how do I do it and how do I figure it out? We can tell you because we probably have done it several times over before. So having that great, I guess, bench strength is what really brings when you work with a partner like us. We're a local firm, as I said, in Palatine. We're actually moving to Deer Park, a mile away. We're building a Tier 4 data center over there. Not to throw buzzwords around, but Tier 4 is totally redundant. Anything can go down. There is something totally there to redundant that data center. So it's really high availability. Probably would be about 9.997% uptime is what that means when you go Tier 4. Tier 3 is a little lower. Tier 2, what you mostly find in school districts would be what we would call Tier 1 level data centers, what they build, which typically means we have an air conditioner, we have a generator and UPS, or maybe no generator with a big UPS and hope the electric comes back before the generator, or the UPS goes out. That's pretty typical in that. We have specialists and experts in K-12. Don himself is an ex-business manager from a school district, has worked in the finance, he knows school districts very well. We have a lot of people who are employed that have been working for the school district for many years, so we understand the cycle of a school district. We understand about opening up in August. We understand what the summer means. We understand, all the hurdles of your business, which I think is really important. Every company I've worked from the past, either being a retailer, school district, or automotive, or now legal, they all have cycles within their businesses, and we understand those cycles, which is really huge importance for them. As I said, technology has become increasingly complex. Again, all the different permutations Again, now devices are rotating out faster than you can think about. What you bought today is already obsolete within the next 2 weeks. Cycles of devices are coming shorter, shorter, shorter. We used to get a laptop, we would have that for maybe 5, 6 years. Today that cycle's about 3. Every 3 years a new laptop's coming out that you have to upgrade to because software doesn't work with it, it's not powerful enough, et cetera, et cetera. Technology part of the instructional practice is we do a lot of districts that are one-to-one. I understand you are one-to-one, you implement that policy. So the importance of a one-to-one and start integrating the instructional section is that you always have to be on, you always have to be available, you have to be able to react to whatever the new thing's going to be. And that typically comes about speed is one, accessibility is the other, and being able to be flexible to handle that back and forth. Again, working with a partner such as us, we have a lot of that built in our data center already. It's available, so whatever curriculum comes up with, we can typically handle it, and there isn't a long-term plan. One of the other problems in technology is what you try to plan even 3 years from now probably will change within the next 2. You can't plan 5 or 6 years like building a school building. You build it and it'll be there for 20 years. Technology will change, it will continually change, and it's going to change even faster and faster and faster. So you have to be really flexible. And hence what happens, school needs more IT staff, a greater expertise to do it all. So they typically keep hiring more and more and more people. Of course, the cost of that goes up. By NFIT 6, we employ a best practices. We have a enterprise system that monitors, manages WANs, computers, distribution of programs to desktops and things of that nature. So we cut our labor costs down, which is all it's about, get the labor costs down. I'll give you an example that when we first started, when I first started, 400 computers was a lot in a school district when we first started doing school districts. That same district we still do today for almost 13 years now. They have 3,000 devices. Our fees are roughly almost the same as it was back with the 4. We just had to get smarter how to manage 3,000 devices, which we do have that practice. Speaking of device, we can support Apple, we can support Chrome-based products, Unix-based products, obviously Microsoft products. We have the expertise in all those fields. We can support them either exclusively or interop, whatever you would like to do. Delivering, again, technology quickly, more efficiently is all about what we do. Securing your data and infrastructure with the best security practices. You know, we're all reading in the paper, you know, Target got hacked, so, you know, they're all getting hacked. Not that I think a school district is something of that, you know, hackers want to go after. They're more looking for the credit cards. But they do get whacked. We get whacked with the school districts. We get hackers trying to get in through ports and things of that nature. Wouldn't be good to get into some of your confidential files and things of that nature. So security is that. And then reducing costs by sharing our experience amongst all the other districts. Things that you may think of doing, we're already doing in other districts. We can bring that technology over, already have it figured out, what all the problems are, will it work, won't it work, what the cost will be, things of that nature. We have that wealth of knowledge. Best practice, we talked migrating servers to cloud technology. One of the most common things right now is obviously we hear about going to the cloud, which is Google Cloud is, for school district, is the most popular. We also do Microsoft's 365. Some do that too. We have all the done it for thousands of devices. We know how to make a cloud. We know how to put the devices up there, move them out there. There's no learning curve. We just get it up and running and done. And flexing of team, deploying more staff when necessary. We do have a bench. One of the things at NFIT 6 is all of our employees are on staff, full-time employees. We don't contract, and that's really probably really different. The reason why is that all our employees are trained on a methodology that we know from district to district, to client to client. So if we ever need to bring in some extra help, we can pull them from somewhere else or another resource and bring them in, and they don't have to read the manual per se to figure out what's going on in your district. They already will know. They can hit the street running and getting things done. They all go through drug tests. We also do that, popcorn number drug testing. Their backgrounds are checked. We meet all of the requirements for that as well. So versus, again, if we contract, we might get somebody who would do some work, and then 8 months later, we call that person up, they're on another job. Well, then we have to send somebody in that doesn't know what they did, and you start all over again. So that's a really huge difference. Taking ownership, we run production IT. I think that's one of the best things I can say about Net 56 is that's what we do. When somebody says to me, what does Net 56 do? I can sit there and list all the different elements, but what we do is we run production IT. Day in, day out, 365, all the way through. That is huge, especially when you start talking about school districts. A lot of school districts think, oh, we just work from 7:30 to 3:30. Well, especially with a one-to-one, the children take the devices home. You still have to be content filtered. That's a requirement from that. There is no downtime. When we first started doing virtuality, almost 10 years ago in our first district, the superintendent said it's just a nice thing, you don't have to use it. So in the very beginning, we only had a handful of teachers using it. Probably within a few years, we had Sunday nights from 9 o'clock on as our busiest time. That's when everybody's in there getting ready for the next week. So there is no such thing as downtime. It's always, 7/24 operation. So that's what we do really well, is running production IT. And again, about imaging and running the cycle, it needs to be done. We understand that very well. Again, we're building a Tier 4 data center. One of the first things that we like to do with a client is we centralize right away. We bring everything to a central place. It's more efficient, better resource for using resource, saves costs. At this particular time, we have put a server out in your district, and we have monitored what's going on. You're not centralized, so that would be one of the first things I would really look at. Even if you were to continue doing this in-house, you should centralize. That's what it's all about. The thing about is when you become centralized, you're going to have to build yourself a little mini data center somewhere that has a generator, air conditioning, and things of that nature. We already have that built. We share it with many of clients. It's actually more cost effective to do that. And then we use high-speed telco back to our data center. You need to have that between your buildings anyhow. As you start to get the cloud-based, or you start using curriculum, you start using videos and things of that nature. A high-def video runs around 10 megabit just to one device. Let's say it even streams out to somewhere around 3 megabit or so in one class, 3 times 30. The bandwidth requirements are huge. A lot of districts today are, I'd say, entry levels, almost 500 meg now, and we probably quoted out tons of gigs connections to the internet for school districts. That's where they're going.
Bruce,
Testing
what
is
did you
also-
call it? You said it was high-speed telco?
Fiber
Fiber?
WAN.
But that's the term you use, telco?
I use telco just as a general term, yeah. It is actually fiber. Anything that gets up to that speed has to be fiber. Map testing requires a lot of bandwidth as well. Again, understanding here, hire employees rather than contractors. Everybody is fully employed by us. Our retain of employees, CEO done 5 years with the company, CIO 13 years with the company, the CTO 8 years, HR 21 years. Still have the same HR person for 21 years. One of the things that we really, as I just heard a speech here, about retaining long-term relationship with our employees, builds in good loyalty. We become a really close-knit group, and it saves us from turnover, which saves us costs as well. When we place people in a district, we always look at the human side first, then the technology side. Whoever that person would be has the full back-end support of our people that can help them with the technology. So it's really important. We do really pride ourselves on that, retaining. So we're here to save you money. I mean, there's no question. Whatever you would want to do, we can do it better and faster and less money. There's no question because we're sharing that cost across everybody. So that's one. Enables you to be efficient. When I say that is, is you can be able to decide something that you want to do in your technology, and then rather wait for a plan, 6 months, 8 months go down the round, you can come to us and probably within a matter of weeks, we can put a plan on the table for you. So you become efficient. You can move with the time. And of course, the compliant and security is what we do all the time. We do it for all the districts. I'm obviously Bruce Koch, and that's my contact. You don't know what to again. And just a kind of a little follow-up on the end of this year is stable, predictable ID costs. That's Advantage. Minimum, we figure usually it's about 22% we can save rather than doing in-house. We have 24/7 help desk, which is required in a one-to-one staff. So if you were to build a 24/7 help desk here, you probably have to hire 6 people just to cover those hours. We have that already built in. Flexibility using any device. You want to use Apple, you want to use Google, you want to use Windows, if you want to use Unix. We have expertise in Unix. In fact, our whole core and our data center runs on Unix. It's a virtual core. So we have a lot of experience at that. Bandwidth flexibility to support curriculum, that's key today. Everything is about bandwidth. You have to be able to get the speed. Content filtering at home. SIPA compliance. One of the things that you have to kind of understand on that is that when all the children go home with the whatever Chromebooks, Apples, whatever, and they're now using their network, which will be Comcast, AT&T or something, and when they go to the internet, they need to still go through your content filtering, which means they go through the internet, they come back into the school district, go through the content filtering, and back out. So if you have 1,000 kids out over the weekend, and they're on the net on a Sunday night, and they're all surfing around, that's coming through your bandwidth in here to maintain SIPA compliance. So it's a huge amount of bandwidth, it's a lot of horsepower, it's a lot of speed. It's not always an easy thing, And then the 724 aspect, it can't never be down, because if they're down, then all 1,000 of them are down. So
What
that's
does
really
SIPA stand
important as
for?
well.
What does SIPA stand for?
Children's Internet Protection Act.
Thank you.
We have one district that we're monitoring reporting, and in the nighttime use, they are averaging about 7,500 pages viewing through an anonymizer. That would be a website that they probably shouldn't be going to, that lets them leap to another website, which could be anything. So that's some of the risks of one-to-one programs. Devices go on.
And then finally, security and peace of mind of a Tier 4 data center, which is just always up. Questions? Just a brief overview of what we do.
So you said technology is changing in every 3 years. Are you doing upgrades to your clients every 3 years?
Well, we actually, we have to rebuild our data center every 5 to upgrade on the data center side. When I said every 3 years, I took a look at your one-to-one program at this point. You're kind of a 6-year, 4 years, 6 years on the middle schools and the children, and 4 years with teachers and that. Best practices, that's 3 years. You should be rotating them 3 years. A lot of school districts, that's a bit hard to chew on. It's 4 years. Is the reason being, I'll give you an example, just take Chromebooks alone, which are an inexpensive device. Of course, they're like half the price of fourth, depending what you're using. Chromebooks that were coming out less than a year ago and the new ones coming out are different. They're not the same. The new ones can do more things than Wi-Fi and wireless, where the old ones can't. And then take advantage of that, now the old one can't. It's a hardware point. The device is only $250. It's not worth upgrading. It becomes disposable. That's really where the future is going in long term. It's really devices become
But is that
lower
what
in cost.
education is about? Is just being able to do more things? Or
Well,
is it about
you do
educating?
more things that the software has to take advantage of, the programs that they're running at that time. So the cycle, and plus, when you get down to devices $250, and versus $1,000, you can rotate them out quicker as well, from a cost standpoint. I mean, it's really, when you get down and look at your
Yeah.
phones today, I mean, not even a year now, you rotate your phone out. And if you're in the technology world, it's a year, sometimes 6 months. I mean, there's always a new phone, it's faster, quad-core's now out more memory,
Yeah.
bigger screen, I get teased, I have a phone tab in my pocket, the phone's bigger in my head,
But if you're not in the technology world,
Well, if you're not in technology world, I mean, you know, you still, if you're going to do technology in your curricula, you are in technology world. I mean, when we look at a one-to-one programs in districts we're using, the whole curriculum now is online. There is no paper, pencil, or anything. Homework submitted, everything's done online. It's all done through the cloud. So if that device isn't working, it doesn't work, right?
I'd say we're a few more years away from that. We're not submitting homework online, not that much. The work that comes. Things I look at as far as where I think we need help or looking at to have an outsourcing service take place is hosting the servers. And I assume you do that and backup and recovery.
Disaster recovery.
And then the help desk, you're saying is 24/7 for both students and teachers?
For teachers and students, which usually is the parents. We usually work with parents. We like to put the parents involved.
Okay.
We don't do their homework.
Very good.
Yeah.
And then is someone always on site from your firm? Is that an option? That someone's around
yes,
the district or not?
Yes.
Or both? Or
At some districts, we are all of their technology. There is no technology. They're all employed by us.
But do you have clients where it's the district's employees that are on site? Or is it always the
running whatever we're managing now?
No.
You know, they might be doing something else, curricula, you know, professional development and things of that nature, which we're not doing.
Yes.
They do that, yes.
Okay.
But when it comes to ownership, and I have to make sure that runs and not have to face you in a bad time, I want to make sure I can control my destiny.
So when a student comes up and says, my laptop's not working,
Mhm.
that's a net 56 employee that
Yeah,
you're handing it
not
over
56
to?
employees that did that.
Yeah, okay.
And for the majority of your clients, do you have your employees on their premises? Is that how it,
I would say,
is that how it typically works?
There's only one client, but that's kind of an odd relationship several counties away, where we're just doing some monitoring for them. But yes, in terms of the collar counties, we have employees at every site.
What sort of familiarity do you have to date with our particular situation here at D96, our needs, our
current infrastructure?
your current infrastructure is kind of like every building stands on their own right now. The 4 different buildings kind of stand on their own. And then you have internet, firewall, and then I think your Comcast business class, which is okay. It's not always up, that type of thing. That structure needs to change. You need to be centralized, either somewhere, you know, with us, bring all the servers in, run them in our core, virtual core, everything will run in there. I think if we, just looking at what we looked at the scan, we could probably almost cut half your servers down, because what you're doing is you're duplicating efforts at all these different buildings. So if you run higher speed telco back to a central place, you only need one, a bigger, badder one, but you need only one. So that would reduce that kind of cost. Also increasing the speed, so the curriculum can use that for map testing and video or whatever they're going to be doing from the cloud. That definitely is an approach. Wireless is the next thing. Wireless has to be really good. It has to be top notch. You can't have spotty wireless. If you turn it on, you can't get to the wireless. We're not doing anything there either. Even corporates are all converting over to wireless. Wireless has gotten good enough now, if you deploy it properly, is you can actually forget the cords for most things. We run wired to printers or stationary kind of boxes and things like that. HVAC systems are still wired, but pretty much when it comes to a user, it's a mobile device. So right now you're around 79 access points. You might want to be increasing that for better coverage from that standpoint. Also, it depends on if, you know, these are things you have to talk about. If you want to go VoIP, have wireless phones and things of that nature, well, you have to have Wi-Fi to walk across and make sure you don't drop call. I mean, we have districts that are 100% wireless coverage, and they have VoIP wireless phones the teachers walk around with. and we have to support E911, triangulate the whole thing. We do that through the wireless. So it's a pretty complicated thing, but once you have that structure in place, now you can just build on it. You just build on that structure. You can add to it. So those are a couple things really obviously right out of the chute. You are running Apples. Chromes are cheaper from a cost standpoint than a Chromebook or even a little tablet. I'm not, that's your direction, which way you would like to go. I can support either one of them. Apple does cost us more to support because we have to image them. There's not as much management tools out there as there is in the cloud with Chrome, or even with the Microsoft product, we can manage better. They have more tools available to us on that. So that's a little bit of a decision you might want to make too. Yes, sir.
Are there many companies as specialized as yours that deal with school districts? And if so, how are you distinguished? How are you better than they are?
Well, what I'm doing is no new thing. I didn't think of it. I watched IBM Global Services does this to the Fortune 1000, but they're the only ones that can afford them. So what happened was I just came down and said there must be a lower entry level I can attract to and apply that practices. In the school world, there's a lot of consultants out there, tons of them. I mean, you can just go through and find them. They'll come in, they'll consult, they'll say, fix this, do this, contract us in, they'll fix it, okay, you're good, and they'll walk out. Well, you have absolutely no technology transfer to your internal people. Anything goes wrong with that, what are they going to do? Call the consultant back. Consultant could be busy, could be 2 weeks before they come back, that's not a good thing. The difference is I think, and Don, maybe you can back me up, I do not know of another company who is going at the K through 8 with this same type of outsource partnership arrangement. What we had to do is get the cost down that is palatable in a K through 8, and that's what we've been really working hard on the past 6-7 years. Once this device explosion came out, to really get our costs down to be able to manage that. So in Illinois here, I do not, Don, back me up, I do not know.
No, there's companies that do project work or monitoring, consulting, best practice reviews, things like that, but they actually, to make the capital expenditure to build a large data center and actually do hosting and have staff on site, we are, to our knowledge, the only one.
When you put together proposals, do they delineate or specify the capital expenditures versus the labor or the consulting costs?
What happens is, to answer your question, is kind of yes, okay. What we do is, like when it's hosted in our data center, what we do is we charge a fee for how much storage you use, how much backup we have to do. It's based on usage, which is a really fair way to go. If you decide that you want to start retaining files more and more and you start getting tera and tera and teras, well, our cost goes up, so we need to have a cost to that. If you decide, no, you don't need that, and the teras get less, your cost goes down because our cost goes down. So our contracts are written for a lot of things of that nature. We also kind of work same thing with wireless and things of that nature. The network, we charge a per device fee, which includes all our management, and we'll maintain it, make it run, things of that nature. In a case like, let's say you have 100 wireless units here and you want to move to 200 to get more coverage, well, that we'll put out as a capital type expenditure. Here's the price of it, here's the wiring to get it done, and actually, quite frankly, you can send it out to bid and we'll end up project managing it for you. But then again, when you put them in, then we will get a fee per. That's kind of how it works. So in the data center, we don't charge it for servers. So like right now, if you were to take, I think it was 3 terabytes, 18 terabytes of data. 18, I'd have to pull it out. 18 terabytes, and the equipment you have is quite old. It needs to be upgraded, and you'll have to buy new SAN and new controllers, and you could spend $100,000 for that. We're not going to charge you $100,000. What we're going to do is probably charge you some sort of monthly, I'm guessing $2,500, something like that, dollars a month, and it runs on our SAN system for you. So you don't have to spend all that capital up front fixing that. But if it's inside the school district, yeah, we'll put that as a capital. Or I've worked with districts where I put it into a fee and rented it to them too. I can do either way. We're, you know, really flexible. It depends on their budgeting, what they want to do. I can do it either way for you. Which gets a little complex in bidding sometimes. What do you want, what do you don't want, but we can do it either way. We do, at least for the infrastructure, I'll just be honest with you, we stick to Cisco from a wireless standpoint. I have certified engineers trained in Cisco. We know Cisco inside and out. I'd like to support every device out there, but it would be just not cost effective to do that.
Yeah, so how does your staff all stay up to speed, abreast of all the latest advancements, developments in the technology world? Because you're saying that you can support Microsoft, you can Unix, Google, Chrome, Base, Apple, everything like that. So tell me how how's that brought to the districts and being able to become more efficient, more delivering a more robust education with the support of technology?
To answer that question is, one is that, first of all, we're a Microsoft certified partner. We're certified by Microsoft. We have to keep our certifications up to be that. So we send out the training, obviously, for the Microsoft side. And for Apple, we also have certified Apple
We have
three on staff that are certified Apple. The idea is back at our data center, our Palatine office, soon to be Deer Park, is these people are up there trained and staffed, and they work with the people going down. So it's not like you have to train bring in a certified trainer in every building. Mm-hmm. They have the knowledge, they do a lot of the imaging work, and the people in the field are just hands and eyes. So you keep that core competence going up there. Our data center is completely Unix, so we have good Unix people on that. And then for Google, we have certified trainers for that as well, and we're also a partner with that. And we manage tens of thousands of devices day in, day out. So another thing is, what you might run into, we probably already ran into another district and figured it out, whatever that problem is. So it just, that's something, it's kind of hard to do when you breed in-house. You get kind of stale sometimes breeding in-house because you just can't be that diverse. Otherwise, it'd never be here, right?
And so
You're
what's
getting training all the time.
Describe to me that relationship. Like, what could we expect from you? So you're dealing with all these districts, and you're learning things, and you're implementing different technologies in different districts and everything like that. And we're here, and our world is just District 96 and everything like that. Tell me about that relationship, about that you would bring. Can we expect that you would bring that knowledge and that experience to us, and how would that work?
Well, absolutely. I mean, number one, I'm just going to throw you that SIPA up there. You're not compliant.
Yeah.
That's number one. I found that right. I mean, I just looked at your infrastructure. I knew you couldn't be compliant.
Sure.
It's impossible to do. So yeah, we do work with other districts, and we do have their problems come to us, and what kind of programs they're putting together, how they're using technology to use in the curriculum, and things of that nature. Absolutely.
Is that an annual sit down saying, going into your next school year?
The hierarchy, whenever we work with a client, there's a hierarchy. First of all, there'll be the field staff that we put in place. Those field staff have a manager that manages the district, multiple districts. So he or she runs around to them, kind of a circuit. And then as you go up there, then you have the whole NOC area up here where your application engineers are. Those are really the ones who are, into technology. They back them up. So they have a calling up. The help desk is up there as well. Don oversees that whole structure. So ultimately, Don, I would say at least quarterly, you meet with all the clients?
About all the clients, probably monthly on average.
Monthly on average, he runs around and meets with clients, would sit down with Bob or Zach or whatever and talk about what your goals are and plan that out. So it is it's not just about 2 people or 1 person, 5, whatever here. It's about that whole support group behind it.
If I could interject. The other thing as far as learning, our staff spend a lot of time doing research during the day. And especially what I call the scary smart ones. They'll spend a lot of time researching. They might spend 2 or 3 hours looking into something, developing knowledge, then doing some testing, throwing up maybe a test bed in our data center and working on it. And that's something, having worked in a school environment, I mean, you're lucky to get lunch. You can't spend time researching. So that's a big help. The other thing we do, we also make introductions. If we look at someone struggling with a certain aspect of something, we might know another district that's just got it just bulletproof. We might introduce them and get permission and make an introduction to have them either talk or maybe meet and get together or do a visitation and see how another district is done. Provide a little guidance that way.
Are you familiar with our organizational structure, how we are on the IT side of organization and then on the curriculum side for IT?
I am familiar
Or
with...
skeletal?
Yes.
Yeah, skeletal.
Okay, that's fine. I don't want to touch on the curriculum aspect of things, but right now the way we're structured is we have, looking at organizational structure, we have our technology director that reports in the director of finance and operations, and then a system support specialist. If we look at your proposal, and are you saying that, how do you get your 22%? My sense is when I look at your price, I'm like, well, these guys are $100,000 more expensive, or $200,000, or even on the reverse side, well, they're $100,000 less. Let's just hire these. How can we, I guess, go over your proposal with, a better understanding? Because either way, whether we have some sticker shock or, wow, these guys are, what would you caution us to look at and say, well, yeah, of course we're going to be $100,000, but you guys got to take in this
Well, I think it's a fair thing. I think Don can talk a little bit too about it as far as structure and how you structure with a lot of other districts as far as that goes. I think a couple things that I just would say, you have to be apples to apples, okay? If you were to do it in-house and build your own structure, what I see already here, just based on what I've seen, you have to start building yourself a little data center, okay? A little data center is going to cost you $250,000. $250,000. By the time you put the generator, the electric, the air conditioning in, you got to have a place to house this centralized. Well, we already have that. So.
And that's how you would say,
Yeah, I mean,
look,
we're
you guys,
sharing.
fine, go do it yourself. Now you're going to spend X amount of dollars, but
Right.
we can do it for you, and
It'll be
there we
less
go.
cost, yeah, absolutely. So we're sharing that resources.
Okay, and then are you saying that if we adopt this, the Net 56 solution or various solutions, are you saying that by outsourcing it, we don't need a IT director?
Probably, I would say not. I would go.
Probably not. I mean, your curriculum has to drive your whole technology.
Right.
I mean, it's all you've got is teaching and learning. And then based on that, you have device requirements. So you end up going with the device selection that supports that curriculum. Some of it is more labor intensive, like Bruce said, than others, like a Chromebook versus a MacBook Pro. Huge difference there. The other thing we have, IT has changed a lot in terms of how you take care of that field. If you have, say, 3,000 devices, you look, for instance, at MacBooks, MacBook Pros, things like that. The old model is you wait for something to break, instruction or learning stops, someone contacts someone, and you react and fix it. And it's really old school, no pun intended there. Now you put agents on those devices that are enabled, and you actually monitor and manage those remotely from our service desk. And typically we find things starting to break before the user even notices a degradation of service. We're able to fix, on average, 66% of breaks or things that go wrong, we fix remotely from the help desk. That's very different from someone picking up and heading over to the next building, maybe waiting for a time to get in and look at a device and fix it. It's much more efficient.
Okay.
It's always about, being up. You have to be up all the time. That's really where you're going. I mean, that's where everybody's going. We're responding to these devices.
So
If
is
it
your,
doesn't work,
sorry to interrupt, is your proposal going to give us all of the options? You've talked about wireless as an option. I assume is fiber an option too?
I don't think fiber's not an option. If I left here tonight and you said, no, we're going to do it in-house, you still got to put that fiber in.
You need the
You
fiber no
have
matter
to.
what?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can't live on what you got.
So are you going to give us as far as all of our options? Because again, we're reviewing our curriculum in technology and we may not be married to the Apple idea. If you can give us an idea of what it would cost if we were to switch over to Chromebooks.
I don't think it matters. I think that's one of the things that we kind of hinged on, that we want to get back together to talk about that. I mean, what my vision is, I mean, if you were a clean slate, and I was sitting there, okay, what are we gonna layer in and do? May not be your vision, from that standpoint. I might overbuild it, I might, those are things we have to talk about. But as far as, again, as fiber goes, you're gonna need to do that. You need to centralize, you need to make a lot of changes to go forward.
Can you expound on your fiber comment, why we need what we currently have and why we need more fiber or less fiber?
Well, first of all, it's decentralized. I mean,
Right.
that really is it. So the structure that's been put in place by your current team, they basically took every building, put servers in there for file storage, DNS servers, all the things that we all love to have in there, a SAN, some small SAN. And then they put a firewall, and then they go to the internet through relatively today's standard, low speed. Okay, they did that at every building.
So we took the same
Same cookie cutter.
concept and
Yeah.
just went, okay.
Yeah.
And you're saying that's not the way to go?
That's 5 years ago. That's not the way to go anymore.
Okay.
Especially when, that's okay if you weren't doing a one-to-one and that type of thing, that might work out better. But when you're doing a one-to-one, that's not gonna really work well at all. In fact, it's gonna limit curricula to do what they want to do.
Why do you say that?
Because you don't have the bandwidth to do it. If you want to have a room of 30 kids, want to watch a video on something education, they're using their laptops, that could be 30 megabits just that one room. Multiply that by your rooms. I think you only have
So
50 right now.
it's limiting. All
It's
right.
limiting, yeah. So, really the goal is, in technology today, and I do this with corporates as well, is being flexible with your technology, being able to handle, because you can't predict what's going to happen 12 months from now. All of a sudden, somebody's going to come up with this new, really great idea on how to teach or how to do something, and that's going to require horsepower and bandwidth. Those are the two things in technology today. Horsepower, bandwidth. Those are the two biggest numbers that you crunch out. And of course, the maintenance of it.
Okay, so then to go away from the same cookie cutter approach at each school, we have to centralize and go with, more fiber?
No, so
Or
what you will
just
do is like from the
get
4
out of
buildings,
fiber.
you're gonna have a fiber running to each one of
All
those
right.
buildings. And if you're gonna do it in-house, you're gonna designate one building here as being your hub. Does
Okay.
that make
All right.
sense?
Yep.
And now you're gonna get rid of 3 of the 4 file stores, you're gonna get rid of 3 of the 4 firewalls, you're gonna get rid of a lot of redundancy, and you're gonna build it in your data center that you're gonna build in this building. Well, you can't be down, so you're gonna have to have a generator, you're gonna have to have air conditioning, you're gonna have to pay for that, the cost of electricity on that air conditioning. You're gonna have to put a sand in there that's redundant, you have to, something
All right,
stops, you
so,
gotta
all
have it
right, so
going.
that's why if we sit down, we look at, one of your proposals, gosh, these guys are expensive. You're saying, well, we're expensive because we're doing this for you
It's all done
right
for
now.
you.
If you guys did it before, you're gonna spend twice as much or whatever.
That's exactly what happens.
Okay, thank you.
So is fiber, is it as, it almost sounds like you're swapping the cable out and throwing down fiber? Is
Yeah,
it that simple,
well,
or is there
actually,
more
you're running
capital
coax.
investment?
I mean, if you want to you're running a coax network is
Yeah.
what you got, which is problematic. Coax is problematic, based on weather changes, they have to go tune the network, things of that nature. Fiber is fiber, it's a piece of light going through glass. It really doesn't matter about cold and things like that. The only thing that matters about is cut it, obviously. When we take a look at how many hundreds of buildings we have lit fiber, you take a look at our overall fiber network that we're running, and by the way, I mean, do we lay it ourselves? No, we contract wholesale AT&T and Comcast. I mean, we have relationships, we buy a lot, gives you a better price as well. When you look at them, I think the number was 99.7 something uptime on fiber, okay? And that is a 24/7, 365, year, when you take in consideration your window in the building. Now, our fiber, we're redundant fiber systems, in our building. So when everybody's at home running at night and everything's in our data center, if there's cuts, you won't know it. We have automatic failovers to other fiber systems. But in the buildings here, you're only gonna have one coming in here. So when you take the idea from 8:30 or 7:30 to 3:30, and you divide that in, that uptime turns into 99.978, which is, do the math, like 5 hours a year. It's down. So it's highly reliable, is what I'm trying to get across to you. So you run.
Well, what I'm trying to get a sense of is switching over to fiber. how much of a capital investment is it to go and hire out contractors to lay down, take out the coaxial cable and lay down fiber?
Mhm.
I mean, you know,
That fiber has to be brought in. I did check that, the fiber is nearby. The good news is whenever you check for fiber in the area, you get either a 1, which means it's already in your building. You get a 2 back, which means it's within 500 feet of your building. You get a 3, which means it's down the street somewhere. A 4 means don't try it. It's going to be expensive. And I've already checked all your buildings. You're on the 3s, and most likely it's probably at the railroad tracks down there is where it is. So AT&T or
I think that's what
Comcast,
we
whoever
heard.
we use, will bring it down and in. Now, I know a lot of times I get people at this that, oh, I got a bid once, they wanted $100,000 to do that. Absolutely, AT&T and those guys love doing that. We're a wholesaler, we know how to get that out at that price.
You know, maybe we like being 5 years behind. I can't speak for my other board members. But are you saying that if we don't do this, you're like, no, we're not going to work with you? We don't want, you know, come on.
You know, I can do it the old school for you, you're gonna pay more labor, you went to a 1-to-1, you went to that initiative, and I can't comment on curriculum, that's not what I do.
Right, so, yeah, that's okay. Curriculum's a whole other.
You're trying to get a
ball.
platform that allows you to be flexible.
Exactly.
And grow with this. I mean, technology's not going away. Using technology is not going to go away at all.
but at some point we have to marry the technology with the curriculum, because I heard the statement, curriculum drives your technology.
And if like technology.
It's not the other way around.
Right.
It's, you have to have the
Yeah.
curriculum.
It's not a panacea.
Right.
It doesn't magically allow kids to learn.
Right.
There are no panaceas in education.
Is that right, Bob? Really?
One
But-
thing I do want to comment on is the question, do we need an IT manager or director if we outsource technology? We may not need someone here to manage the day-to-day operations of the infrastructure, but we are going to need someone with leadership qualities that is going to be able to speak to you about, here's what I need to get my teachers and principals so they can support students. So they need someone, a connection to you with that background and knowledge about technology curriculum and instruction to be able to communicate with you and let you know what we need to support teaching and learning.
A very good marriage in our relationship is usually there is somebody within the district who is just that, curriculum-based. Understand enough about technology to know that I can build a curriculum on it, but doesn't know how to put the wires together and make it work. They do exactly that. They'll meet with Don, they'll come with Don, you know, we're gonna roll out 4,000 Chromebooks. I wanna do this, I can do this, the money looks good. How do I roll out 4,000? What's the procedures? How do you really roll that out? Yeah. That's when we come to play and we lay it out how to roll them out and get them done. In a district this size, 1,600 is the number. Don helped me out. I just give him some ideas. If you were running Chrome, one person here,
Yeah.
one person. We would put one person here in the building to run. And then they would use our managers and everything else from there. Being at your Apple, I might have to go to 2 right now because of the labor cost of Apple to do. But I'm just giving you an idea. We run Chrome districts that just one person in 1,600.
And that one person would be your employee.
Yeah, it has to be, because we have to instruct them, they have to do what we want them to do, they have to abide by our rules, because that's what makes it. Because they're working with the people in the back who have all the cool monitoring systems running, you know, they're the ones with the monitors all over the walls watching what's going on, they need to direct that person. So when it's not an employee of ours, it gets difficult.
On building security, some school districts are using key cards, or keyless door things and cameras. Can this all be integrated? I'm sure it can be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have the key fobs right now. We don't
Key
have-
fobs.
yeah.
We do, I mean, in our own offices, we all have key fobs, we all video, I mean, we do all of that in our own offices, 24/7. Our generators have cameras on them with heat sinks that anybody walks anywhere around them, they set off an alarm, things of that nature. I mean, we do that, I mean, we just do technology, and we've worked with a lot of other school districts doing it for that as well. Video is really big from that, and archiving. So, So I think just kind of sum it up, that's really what we're about. I mean, we bring that wealth of information to the table. I think that's a real value add that we have available to you in your district if you work with us as a partner. And as Bobby knows, she knows a number of our districts we work with, how many years we've been with them. Like I said, we have districts that are all Apple Chrome, PC Chrome, I mean, mix match, every little tablet pad there is out there they buy. They want, whatever the price point is. And, things that Don gets is, Mary, I'm going to buy this device and I want to do this. And our guys come back and say, no, don't buy that device. It's not going to work in the big scheme of things. Correct.
Yeah, well, I got to test compatibility on the device with the different software programs that are being used.
And then on your current structures you were just saying you had, I think it's impossible for those people to ever have time to do that.
I agree.
That they don't. That's why we have to get the back core, the depth in the bench. That's what they do. They play with all the devices. They see all the problems that they get.
What do you see as the next step? If we were to move forward, what's the next, what would you
Well, I would
propose
like
as
to
the
get
next
back with
step?
Bobna and Zach and sit down and really scope out and nail where you want to go, what you want to do, and then put out some price models. We can go here, we can go here, we can go here, and you can take a look at those and what you think is good for your district.
Thank you very much for
What's our
coming,
time,
Bruce.
what would our time
I'm
frame
sorry.
be? Time
Our
frame?
time frame?
So, what do we think?
I don't know where you are in your cycle, but the fiber coming in can be E-ratable, which means you can get government funding for that. That is coming to a close for this coming year. If you miss it, you'll have to wait about a year and a half.
Do you know what the deadline is?
I'll have to post 470
By February 26th, but I would say probably no later than February 20th. But that's not a commitment to do anything. It's kind of like a wish list.
Yeah, you can
So
post that,
February
no
20th and
commitment.
a decision prior to March 26th. And then the year actually begins, the services begin on July 1st.
How long does it take to change out to the fiber? How long is that process?
That's a good question. If I was to ask AT&T, they'll give me the standard 120 days is what they'll tell me. They do it all the time. I would love to say that I could go out there and beat them with a bat to make them go faster, but I have a lot of good representatives. I mean, again, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in fiber bills. I mean, I have a pretty good push when it comes to it. But if it's a permit issue, which has been a problem, like the village not issuing a permit, that can slow us down a lot. Now, we've had
Sounds like you're gonna get their
school
crossing
districts
guards.
go to the village and sit there and wait for somebody to go get a permit. Wheeling was one of them, right?
Yeah.
They actually went to the Wheeling and sat there to get a permit stamped so they could go. So those are the kinds of problems we run into. But if it's not a permit and things, yeah, they're pretty good. They move it along. It depends too if you have to be aerially here, if they can move it through up on poles rather than pouring it underground. It depends what codes are in the village. Yeah. The good news is once it's in, I'll tell you how crazy telco or fiber's gone. We were not even, 3 years ago, 100 megabit was like, gee whiz, wow, and the most I could get out of AT&T would be 750 megabit out of that fiber. That's as much as they'll backhaul to me. Okay, so now today we're all doing gigs. We have a gig and a half being asked of us, 2 gigs being asked of us.
Right.
And now the new fiber I'm bringing in, this is not even 3 years, now I can get 10 gig over that same fiber. That's how, and the price has dropped drastically as well. I mean, you'll probably have a sticker shock when you see it, but when you compare to what you're getting for, I mean, at home, if you're running your Comcast, they're advertising, but I've seen it 25 megabit in your home. You only have 50 in your school. So, I mean, that should kind of say you're a little slow. So going to a gig between buildings is not unheard of, and the price has dropped so much, so it's worth doing. And then you get E-rate. I think you're 40 cents on a dollar. 40 cents on a dollar will get covered by E-rate from the federal fund. So it's well worth doing. I would do that here if I never talk to you again, or not. You should do that here. That you have to do that. You have to centralize. It's the only way you're going to be able to really move forward in any kind of efficiency.
Is there any danger in having the fiber overhead? Danger as in, falling trees or ice?
That is, the advantage is less cost to put it up there. Trees are a problem. Underground is pretty good, pretty safe. They run down in the easement with utilities. Somebody really would have to backhoe down deep to get them. Probably, I think most problems that we would have is from the street into the building. Because then what we would have to do is we bring a core board team out and they push it on the ground and that type of thing. And I think it goes down about a foot and a half. So you got to be kind of careful when you're digging around your buildings. But other than that, if they're in the streets, a lot of times they're running in the sewers. They're fiber, so they don't care if they get wet. Copper does. The old days, whenever it rained real hard, we have districts that would go down because the copper got wet in the sewers and you had to wait for them to dry out. I mean, so fiber is definitely the way to go today. And then the speed will go up. Your demand's going to go up. So that's the way to go. And we would orchestrate with that. We would actually, I should take that back. We would bid that out. To be free too, for E-rate, we would bid it all out. So we would entertain bids from other people putting the fiber in as well. Not necessarily I have to do it. We can just get this and do it.
All right, are there any other questions or?
Thank you.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
But can I have Bhavna or Brian just comment on, are we facing educational tools out there right now that we cannot even consider because of our technology structure right now, infrastructure right now? Are we facing that right now?
I missed the first. Are we facing what because of?
Are we facing? Are we looking at new educational tools, methods that we can't even consider right now because of the current state of our technology and infrastructure here?
Infrastructure?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I mean, we are. I mean, as we're looking to move more towards 21st century learning, communication is a huge, it's a 4 C's. Communication is a huge part of the learning process, and collaboration is another one. And there's a lot of technology, including video technologies, in which many school districts are using as a form of communication and collaboration, even with kids that when they're not here, they're at home collaborating with each other. We have a system right now where, even video-wise, and I think Matt alluded to this in our last finance meeting, where we can show we can stream a single video and it can clog up a lot of our capabilities. And so we can't have, let's say, a classroom of kids collaborating with each other on their devices, collaborating with people outside the classroom on their devices. Right now, there's a lot of potential out there. There's the creativity piece of the 21st century learning, and there's a ton of technology and devices out there to support that. We haven't started to really move in that direction yet because we know there's going to be issues with the infrastructure right now.
When we have a class doing, and I can't cite a specific example, but what we've heard is when we have a class even doing a search on the internet, it's slow. So if you've got 25 kids having their laptops open, doing a search for on the internet, it's going to be slow, and I multiply that by how many classes are in a building.
I can just add to that real quick, is that we want to get much beyond just having a class doing searches. See what I'm
Correct.
saying?
Yeah,
And we're
that's
kinda
what
stuck-
that's more what I'm looking
we're
at
kinda
is
stuck there, so
yeah.
we haven't even taken that next step, because if we can't have a whole class search, we're not going to be able to move into the 21st century.
Yeah, I think that's more where
Teachers
my
don't want to
question
go
is.
further, but they can't because it's frustrating,
Yeah.
when you can't even get online.
Right.
Or if it's slow, if it's taking 10 minutes to look up something, how can they go to do something that's more video related or to collaborate with someone outside of their classroom when they can't access that?
Well, I think too, and I'm sorry, but we tend to have a system right now where technology, our kids are being exposed to certain softwares and pieces of technology that we know are going to work on our system. So as we have the best teachers in the world, I'm not saying that at all, but as years go on, teachers are using kids are using the same software, the same type of technology, because we know it works at different grade levels, as opposed to new technologies, new ways to communicate, new ways to collaborate, because we want to use what we know works. You know what I'm saying? So it really limits the exposure of our kids.
Mr. Alkins, did you?
Yes, could you identify yourself, please?
I'm Steve Algness. I'm a fifth grade teacher in Central. And one project I like to use, or one program I use, is Google Earth. And I know whenever I know I'm doing a project based on Google Earth, I have to send Matt an email saying, just letting you know I'm going to be using it at this particular time. Just because I know that drags down the network. And all of a sudden I'll have I'll hear somebody else saying, how come the network's so slow? Well, one class week in Google Earth.
Don't look at this guy again.
Especially once they learn how to spin that globe.
There you go. That summed up kind of what Brian and I took 5 minutes to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Specifics,
That's
and
it.
that was helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
Can we, all right, I would like to move on to our next agenda item, and again, thank Bruce and Don, was it? Thank you very much again for coming and for answering all of our questions. Next item on our agenda is approval of, or consideration of approval of minutes of previous meetings. Could somebody please make a motion?
I'd like to move to approve the minutes of the special board meeting of December 3rd, 2013, the regular business meeting of December 17th, 2013, and the policy committee meeting of December 17th, 2013.
Second it.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the meetings that Rachel just enumerated, December 3rd, December 17th, and December 17th. Policy committee and regular business meeting on the 17th. Please call the roll.
Randy Brockway,
Here? Yes.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
David Kadama,
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Arthur Perry. Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye. Right, it's the minutes of the previous meetings, December 3rd, for the special board meeting, and the regular and policy committee meetings of December 17th are approved. Next up, item F is district guiding principles, reports from the superintendent. Have any, do that quickly, or?
Sure. In your packets, as well as on the public packet, is our district's guiding principles. So under academic and professional excellence, not only you but the public can read a more detailed summary, but we've posted the special ed director position. Dr. Gannon, Ms. Fallon, and Ms. King will be screening, and then we'll be setting up interviews in the middle of February. The Common Core Alignment Team is meeting, and they're halfway through their course alignment, and we're looking to start the math committee to be meeting in the next couple of weeks in February. The LADSI Needs Assessment, we are working with LADSI and looking at our current staff and how many can we keep in-house as opposed to outsourcing with LADSI. That'll keep our costs down, so we'll be preparing that assessment at the first week of February. And then the parent participation on committees, received 13 applications for the 5 committees, so Dr. Gannett is working with parents on notifying them of when the next meetings will be. We shared with you that last Monday the water main broke at Central. That has been repaired under financial and operational excellence. These are I'm going to have Zach, when he returns, give you an update on the financial ratings from ISBE, as well as a PTAB update, but we requested specifically, or they requested specifically, a $1.5 million tax appeal, and the settlement was $62,000. Excuse me. So we were able to preserve $1.4 million, and that was in collaboration with the other taxing bodies when we combined our resources with the attorney. of Scariano. And then for rigorous communication, last week I provided an update of what we're doing to currently update our website and making sure that we're compliant and making it more engaging for the community. And our social media update, we continues to grow at each of our school, and the district administrator, or excuse me, the building administrators are watching how many people are clicking and hitting like, so we're able to monitor our involvement that way. And then, Zach, did you want to give a quick summary on the financial and operational piece, not to put you on the spot, for our financial ratings from ISB? Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, our financial rating for ISB was a 3.9, best possible score is a 4. We've been consistently at that receiving recognition score. It's based on a weighted average, and earlier this year, it showed how the calculation was produced, and the results were good. So, and that was for actually fiscal year 12, so they're 3 years behind.
Just as a note, what Zach has reported are the weighted scores versus the ratios themselves.
Oh, got it.
Okay, just, yeah, our ratio is not, for each item isn't 1.4. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Anyway,
That's all I have.
Can I ask a couple questions?
sure.
In the PTAB update, I just want to make sure I understand what you said. You said, my understanding is we budgeted for 1.5 million, but when we actually ended up with the settlement, we only had to pay 62,000? No.
They appealed. I'll let him talk. I'll let him address that. But they appealed
They
the
appealed for
golf course.
1.5 million. I didn't budget for 1.5 million. There's no one else who budget for what they appealed for. But that's just one of them. They settled on 62,000. Our share, we settled for 62,000, leaving 1.4 or something that was appealed, but they didn't receive.
Okay, so they'll translate that to, I mean, I know we have
All
a
we're paying is
PTAB.
62,000.
Right, but do we normally have, we put some money in our budget
Yes.
to make sure
Yes,
that we
because have
can
multiple-
cover this? And I
That's the
was
mall. We also have the golf course, potentially Costco.
Wasn't it 800,000 or
700,000.
700,000?
in what?
And then all,
And
and
expected PTAB.
Oh, in the budget, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there is a number in the budget. This is not translated to the numbers, just to translate it to the appeal.
Right.
And that's a really good number, the 62, in my
yes, it is.
opinion.
All right, and it is, I think, the narrative in the guiding, in the report spoke to the appeal at the mall?
Yes.
So this does not include the golf course?
No, this is North Riverside Mall.
All right,
That'll be a different one coming
Right,
down
it just-
whenever they get to it settled.
all right, so we're talking, do you recall what the number in the budget was? I mean,
I believe it was 700,000. Last year was 550.
The year before, I remember 500, but I don't know what
All
budget
right,
that was
well-
from.
All right, thank you.
The parent committees, is it parent committee? Is that reflective of the emails that we heard for Christmas about maybe changing the times of meetings and so forth to accommodate more parents?
Yes.
Yes, okay, very good.
And then I have just two other things. Bhavna, when you talked about the website, what's your timeline on updating that? Do we have a timeline?
Hopefully by the end of the month, February, so
So-
we'll get everything updated. Because we're
Updated?
still working, now the next thing is the calendar. We got everything to compliance, now we're making it more engaging, and then the calendar piece, and the calendar may just take some time. And only because we're limited to the specific software we use, which is WordPress. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on that website, I just want to update it and then look at different resources to host it.
So
Looking
basically
ahead.
creating a new one?
Yes.
And where is that in your timeline?
Probably over the summer.
Okay.
And I know there was a June 30th, 2014 date in the presentation in,
Right, I just was
Come up with
confused.
a plan to share with you about updating the website
okay.
by June.
Okay, okay, all right. Next, item on the agenda is reports from our various committees. Art is not here to provide one for education, so we'll skip it. Finance, Lisa, yeah.
We had a meeting last week, and just let me pull up the agenda, I was concentrating on. I tell you, I did not prepare correctly for that. God. We had a meeting that was last week, and on that agenda was, I'm drawing a blank. Can you come back to me in 1 minute? I'll have it
All right.
together.
David, the pressure's on you.
Okay, the policy committee met prior to this meeting, this evening at 6, after 6. And we conducted second readings for 3 policies, policy updates, one on board member development, another one on workplace harassment prohibited, and another one on student records. Our Superintendent Trevor Lewis reported to us on and some additional questions that we had with regards to who's the official records, who is the official custodian of the records for our district as well as for each school, and then talking about procedures about how staff and parents and students are informed of their rights to access to those student records. 2 ways, that's through email to staff. Well, for staff, it's an email to the staff, and then for parents, we're going to have procedures so it includes that information in their registration packets as well as it's going to be posted on the website. We also reviewed our board attorney's review on our policies regarding ethics and gift ban and on committees. We accepted those reviews and conducted a first reading on amendments to that policy 2:105 on ethics and gift bans. We decided based upon our attorney's review that we would keep the committee policy language the same, so no action there. I'll also say that on the 3 policies that we had second readings, they are going to be considered here later this evening for final action for consideration for adoption. And then lastly, I'll just say that we reviewed a number of policies just as a part of our 5-year review. We looked at a couple policies that we're going to defer until there's our special education review and audit is completed by Dr. Folan and Dr. King, related to education of children with disabilities, students with student and family privacy rights, expulsion procedures, and misconduct by students. Another policy on student assignment and class size was deferred to the Education Committee. We did conduct a first reading on one policy, policy 360 on administrative responsibilities of principals. Rachel Morello gave us an update on her work with the working committee on hiring process. And that is the recap of the policy committee.
All right, thank you, David.
All right, I'm together now. The Finance Committee met last week. We had presentations from Quest Food Service looking at the possibility of maybe sharing food service with Riverside Brookfield. We also had a presentation on the website audit and what the results were and how we're working on that. We talked a little bit about future technology infrastructure options, basically informing the board of the fact that Net 56 would be coming this evening and that Illini Cloud was also scheduled to present, and I think that's been confirmed for February.
Live and in person. It's like a boy band. At the February, 18th meeting?
Right.
I believe. They do have a copy of the Client First report, and at some time early February, they've asked that they talk with someone in administration. They have a bunch of questions they'd like to ask as far as our infrastructure and capabilities. I would assume that would be Matt Elenius, but when that time comes and we can set up a phone call, I would greatly appreciate it.
So will you have them contact me?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll do so. I will instigate an email to you and copy Matt and the people from Illini Cloud, and you can set up a time to talk for, they just want to ask, infrastructure questions so they can tailor their presentation to, for us in February.
Okay.
And then 2/4, there'll be the technology. February 4th will be the technology forum.
Correct, February 4th Technology Forum.
And there will be agenda posted online at the appropriate time.
I believe it's about to be posted or will be posted soon.
Yeah, it's definitely, it has not been released yet, but it's definitely together. So,
How about promoting it out to the public?
we do have a promotion plan. The village has agreed to promote it for us 1 week before on eFlash. And then,
I am in the process, it's kind of marinating up here, to write a letter to the Landmark inviting people to the technology forum.
So the e-flash does not go to everyone in the village, and it doesn't go to people in Brookfield and North Riverside.
Well, it goes to the people who subscribe to eFlash.
to subscribe to eFlash.
So you could be whoever. Right?
Yeah, but it's only Riverside residents.
No, anybody who, I think,
Registers.
anybody who registers can get an eFlash.
From North Riverside?
Yeah, all they have to do is go in. It's something.
Yeah, well, I guess my point is that I think, we need more than just an e-flash a week before the February 4th to really trump up attendance, and I think that's what we want. We want a lot of people to come.
I agree. I think, so I don't know, maybe something, e-backpacks, e-flash, letter to RB Landmark. Any other suggestions?
Facebook.
I
Don't all
suppose.
the schools have a page, so we could do it through there.
You know what? I suppose we could ask North Riverside if they have an eFlash type of a system and ask them to. That is something they could do on our behalf. I mean,
And what about Brookfield?
and Brookfield as well. Don't know what their system is, but I made the call here to Peter Scalera, so I'd be happy
Yeah,
to
I'm sure
call
they all-
somebody. What?
I'm sure they all have various e-flash systems, so that we're talking Brookfield, we're talking the Hollywood area, so they get notified. But
Yeah.
the more we get the word out, the better, I would agree.
All right, I don't.
So we did a little update at the Finance Committee about that and saw more tonight. We talked a little bit about management reports and variables that we would like to look at on an ongoing basis to ensure that we're monitoring kind of our business as it goes along. And we talked a little bit about the district office location and the potential of some increase in classrooms for the special education program. Updates, we got 4 updates. We got the update on the recognition dinner, which has been moved on to being booked and
It has
taking
been
place.
booked, yes.
We got an update on the architect RFP, the server rooms, and the concealed firearms new law that has come into place, and the signage on our buildings. And that was an update from the Finance Committee. The next Finance Committee meeting will be in March.
Rachel, do you want to just give us a quick update on the working committee procedures? We've got a target date for release of.
Yes, as we discussed in the policy committee meeting, working committee has a draft policy that will be put on next month's agenda, so that is on the 18th, and we'll discuss it then.
Thank you. Any reports from board liaisons?
Only that there's a number of us, I think yourself and myself and I and Lisa are scheduled to go to the technology forum discussion, including Dr. Sharma Lewis and anyone else. Was that it from staff from the district?
I'll invite you guys if you want to come. Monday night.
Thank you.
Monday. So part of that is that's hosted by EdRed, which is our one of our lobbying associations for suburban school districts, and we're a member. And they're going to give a legislative update, as well as have this forum discussion on technology and 21st century learning.
All right. Thank you. Lisa, anything?
PLT did not meet in December, but they will be meeting tomorrow. So I will be able to have an update at the next meeting.
All right. Anything from the Riverside Education Council?
Yes, I would just like to say thank you for upcoming agenda item J2, which is the, to amend our 403B plan to allow the Roth 403B plan. This is actually something that I was asked about. I checked the first email in March of 2010. I want to thank Bhavna and Zach and Donna McLachlan for really getting that benefit for our members. And thank you, hopefully, to the board to approve that resolution. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty. All right.
Bless you.
Moving on to financial information items. Zach is going to provide us some information and give us some status of our budget to actual financials.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Oops.
Wait, the reports I'm going to show are,
Get those emails off of there.
get rid of this.
You have to go to the top right.
That's all right, I'm just going to click on my report. Okay. This is what I've been providing monthly, and I was asked to at least present what data I'm showing. And this is what's in the treasurer's report every month. And what I'm showing is where we're at with our fund balance, our year-to-date revenues, expenditures, and then our projected ending fund balance. Now keep in mind that these numbers are year-to-date, so as the years go on, right now we're at 12.5 million in operation revenues. You won't see significant increases in revenues till May, June. That's when our first installment payments for our levy come in. So from February, March, April, you're not going to see significant jumps in revenues, but you will continue to see increases in expenditures. So the excess revenues will shrink as we go on in further months, which will result in a lower fund balance. So I break it up between operating and non-operating funds and show you where we're at today. My next tab is going to show our year-to-date budget to actual. And I throw up the 2 years. I have fiscal year 13 and 14, again broken out by revenue and expenditures and operating and non-operating. What you want to focus on are the percentages right here. Typically what you want to see that won't draw attention if we're at 6 months through the fiscal year. You expect us to be between 48-52% in revenues and hopefully around 50% or less in expenditures when comparing budget to actual. And you can see we're in the 50s for revenue, which is good, except for these two, which is the transportation fund and IMRF. And the reason why transportation fund is at 36% is we haven't levied enough in the past. So the installment that we received this school year in September and October was still from levy year 12, which we didn't levy enough. So the bigger chunk will come in May and June, and that's about 504,000 net will get us close to 100% of our revenues. And the same thing with IMRF. We didn't levy enough of IMRF in tax year 12, bumped it up a little more for 13, and you'll see that catch up in, as May and June approaches. On the expenditure side, we're pretty good. We're under 50% with percentages. The only one that you see that is significant is debt service. That's because we paid the entire principal and 6 months of the interest in the fall in October. We only have left to pay the remaining 6 months of interest this year. Any questions? Confusing?
Is this exactly what you'd anticipate?
Yeah, I anticipated us to be around the 40s.
Anything that we should, problems, or not problems, but anything that you're anticipating that might get our attention in the future?
The only thing I from word about state grants, we may receive, our transportations are coming in slower than I would expect. Hopefully we have received 2 payments so far. I'm hoping to complete the remaining 2 before 6:30. And the only other thing
is that the full apportionment
well,
that we're getting?
they're
or
still
not?
behind 2 payments.
They're still?
Yeah, it's still behind 2 payments. The only other thing that did concern me was that Colin told me that IDEA reimbursement was, the state reduced the IDEA reimbursement. She said 50%, but I haven't seen the news on that, so I wasn't sure.
Can you tell us what is the, it's an acronym?
IDEA is
Illinois
Education.
Yeah, Illinois
Disabilities Education Act.
Thank you. And that's what we get our reimbursements for special ed costs.
Okay, and they've been reduced?
That's what I
So
was
you've
told.
heard.
Yeah, I've been.
So if it's 50%, what's the dollar amount then?
It could be significant. It's based on our reimbursements. So if they're not going to reimburse 100%, whatever you submit for reimbursements, and our special ed costs have been almost $2 million.
Yeah, okay.
So, but I haven't.
All right.
I talked to somebody. They haven't heard it yet either. So I'm not sure. I'm not
So,
going
again,
to panic about that right now.
And we had just talked again a little bit earlier about the P-TAB, but something less, again, I know you don't have the information at your fingertips, but that's some sort of a savings, we believe, in our budget?
It could be, yes.
Okay.
It could be pending the outcome of the golf course and Costco.
But you won't hear the-
But those aren't scheduled to the golf course and Costco are not this year's, in this year's budget, or are they? Or I mean,
They are in this year's budget.
they're in this year's budget?
Well, what I did was, like, based on just the historical numbers, it was increasing. It went from 300 to 450 to 550, and my estimate was, okay, it keeps increasing. And then we had word of Costco, and we had word of the golf course, but that might fall in this year. So just as a conservative, I went with.
All right, when you say it was increasing, you mean the budgeted expenditure?
The budgeted expenditure, the actual expenditure.
Oh, okay.
The actual number.
The actual expenditures were increasing, so you were conservative with your budget?
Yes.
But we don't have a date they're gonna settle, it just is when they settle, right?
Exactly.
And we don't, I mean, it's in litigation now,
Right.
or the
Oh,
process
They
isn't
filed the
worse.
process.
It could happen 6 years from now.
Right,
Okay.
that, so I mean,
That's the
once you
problem.
get to the end of
Yeah.
the fiscal year, and those don't come in, then we realize the savings from the number we put in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Zach, you-
Then that's something that could hit us,
Well,
double
right.
hit us next year.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
possibly.
Zach, you mentioned the special ed. Are you projecting, is this a rumor about the, not getting?
I was just told that as of passing by my office, she said, did you hear that special IDEA reimbursement was 50%? I go, no, I didn't.
Is there any way to verify the information?
I'm gonna look up on ISB website, and I've been contacted other businesses.
So this is not just delayed, we're talking about not it coming at all.
No, it's just a
Maybe.
reduction.
You're
of the
done.
yeah.
But 50% reduction.
That's what she said, and I
So
said,
that's like half,
They say
okay.
50%, and she's like, I'm sure they said, but
Yeah.
that's the only thing that concerns me right now. I'm not panicking, because,
And confirm it.
Yeah,
You have to
yeah.
confirm it.
We'll panic next month, I guess.
Yeah.
Every month.
Well, that's always the threat of any kind of state grant.
Exactly.
Right,
I'm
right.
And
transferring
whether
it
it's
Federal.
to-
transportation or there's probably,
Especially with the state.
Right, they can make a decision in June that, all right, we're not gonna make your last transportation payment.
Right.
it's a threat. I mean,
Right.
and it's probably more than these two items, right?
Yeah.
Do we get state
yes.
reimbursements from?
Yes, we do, right.
Kind of a fact of life.
Okay.
All right, Zach,
I'm gonna stay up here, I think I'm next too.
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think we're,
What's your number?
Any questions on the financial?
I think, no, I don't anyway.
No.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And we're going to continue to get that report, right?
Quarterly.
Quarterly is
Quarterly.
what we,
Treasurer's report, as always, will be at your
Right.
monthly statement.
Sorry.
Could be a big chunk of money, special ed.
right, are you gonna speak on the capital improvement expenditure summary?
Yes,
Okay, which
I was-
is the Ramesh report?
But this is different, right?
this is just, I was asked to do a reconciliation,
Oh, I can't.
to perform a miracle, to reconcile Vistara's financials with our internal audited financials.
No,
And
no, we just did it.
it's self-explanatory, so I'm just gonna leave it up here and you guys can look at it.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, I can't see it, so.
And just so everybody knows, this was asked after, so we will put this in your packet tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
This
Let
will
me
be
pass
made
it. I
available
can
in your
pass it.
packet
Oh, do you
tomorrow.
have some? Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay.
The eyes don't work as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the top number here for both, I have two columns here. One is the internal accounting records, the other is information provided by Vistara. The board approved $25,395,597. Actual transfers that I made to capital projects and previous administration made, plus any earnings on investment, totaled $24,993,755. Leaving, if we wanted to spend for the renovations, $401,842 that wasn't transferred. Okay. And if you go to the Vistara side, expenditures, for the financials provided in your packet, I believe, for 2012 construction project expenditures, you had $15,830,859. And then for 2013 construction project expenditures, you had $6,237,876. And an additional $95,302 for consultant charges. For total year-to-date, or project-to-date, expenditures of $22,164,037.56. Now, what I did is I went through our internal financials, and on construction bid contracts, I almost matched what Vistara had. We're off by about almost $13,000. That was pretty close. I think the difference is somewhere in here. There's some bills from, or some invoices from our contractors that were small, and I think was paid out of a different account and not out of the contracted
account number. So that's where the difference was. Now this 860, approximately 868,000, those are all costs that weren't bidded out. So there were movers, we had some
Blinds. Would blinds be in
blinds,
there?
we had tile done in a couple of the gym room, the rooms between the gyms. Painting. And then there were some other ones that were done in 2012. So all those invoices totaled out this number right here to give us a total construction expenditure of $23,019,673. We still have, on both sides, we still have the retainage to pay.
That's what we're holding.
We're holding from
Holding
Simpson,
for Simpson and
Aceteli,
Aceteli and Honeywell.
Honeywell, correct. Now, if you look at on the side of Vistera, he's showing total construction expenditures of $22,302,000. Now, if you take that number, the expenditures subtracted by the revenue we actually transferred, he's showing excess revenues of $2.7 million. And over budgeted revenue, which is the $25,395,000, he's showing actually $3,093,000, I think it is. I don't know how that came up. I don't know if his addition is incorrect, but I came up with $3,092,916. Now that's not the true amount that we have left over. This is the correct amount right here.
Where? Orange box?
It's actually the green
box. Oh, right.
What I found out, there were additional costs then incurred before construction began. One of them related to the issuance of the debt certificates, and then we also had pre-construction related costs, and that was consulting charges from Concept 3, attorney costs of attorney charges relating to construction and so forth. So the true capital project expenditure to date was $23,800,000, leaving us with almost 1.2 million.
Does this include all the change orders?
Everything.
Everything?
On both years. Both years, right?
So Zach, the, under expenditures for 2013, consultant charges $95,302. Does that include Ramesh?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Ramesh and Concept 3 making.
And there's analytical consult,
right.
there's two other consultants that did testing this summer that
United.
would probably be in
United, right.
United Analytical, and there's one other one.
No, the other question I had was about the, you term it non-bid construction expenditures. It's not part of the main contract, but was there an attempt to get competitive pricing on that work?
Well, I can't speak of 2012 charges.
It's $900,000. I'm just wondering.
But that's
it's a
12 and
combination of
13 together.
12 and 13, yeah.
Lisa, can you speak to that?
I cannot speak to this summer's work. I believe there was some competitive bidding on things, but some things like the blinds, we used the same vendor because they wanted to match.
The storage.
Right,
costs.
the storage costs and the moving costs.
Yeah, yeah.
I would just, it's a big chunk of money. I would just encourage us to always,
It's a big project.
price.
Big project.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I think-
I'm talking about these non-bid items,
Sure.
David.
I'm talking about the I'm talking about the $24 million.
Yeah,
Big
well, the
total.
$900,000, it was.
Well, the other thing is that to really know if some of these were appropriate for bidding, we would need to have an itemized list. And also, some of them might have been bid, the moving might have been bid, I don't know.
I know the storage, for the storage, there was bidding.
I mean, I don't know what this is inclusive of either. I mean, so it's hard to speak to whether they were bid or not, when we don't really know what the itemized.
We would
numbers
need
are.
an itemized
I mean, I
list.
can guess on some of them, but only ones that I have experience with from the summer.
Well,
I
I
had to
mean,
get bidding
it's
contracts for
labeled,
painting in my own house. Pretty
Right, and
expensive.
we got,
it's labeled as non-bid items, so, I mean, that's how I read it.
Yeah, but I don't think I don't think it's one.
but
one
non-bid,
they're-
but Randy, non-bid means non-bid in the bidding process, right?
Yes,
It doesn't
right.
mean that within the non-bid numbers, we didn't bid things out. What it means is that they didn't have the official
They weren't managed
Managed
by
by
Concept 3.
Right.
bidding process.
I use Vistera's label of what he called bid contracts, and everything else was mine.
Right, exactly. So that's just the ones, basically the generals and the subs. And everything else was under that other one.
Well, we discuss $1,000 here, $10,000 savings opportunities. And I just see that big number there, almost $900,000, and it doesn't seem like there's a real good definition or understanding of how that money was appropriated.
Right, I think we'll watch that in the future, but I do think there are probably records on it. We'll just have to get them. Wouldn't some of that also be the gym refinishing of the floor might have been in there? Which was
Which
bid.
was
That was
bid,
bid, correct.
right.
It's what they're really saying, maybe non-bid is not is kind of misleading number, or misleading label.
Maybe I should just call it non-contracted.
It was things outside of the
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
main package, but they're miscellaneous things that we decided to handle outside of the Concept 3 umbrella, for lack of a better way of stating it.
Basically, we still have money to do blindfolds.
Okay, good to hear it. 'Cause one day they'll have to get done.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Good deal.
Zach, I guess we're just gonna ask you, want to talk to us at all about payables? I mean, you don't have to hook that up again, but.
Are you sure? All right. Checks that were significant, that were in December and January, was Concept 3 asbestos inspection. We made that payment. In December, talked about it for 2 months. Jobs completed, payments been made. Reports are at each school and according to regulations, so we're okay with that. Auburn Corporation, it's a part of a window track replacement for $3,400. With the windows that we have purchased from the renovations are very heavy, so it wears on the window track, so we need stock just in case like one or two cracks and we can replace it right away. So that's just a restock on a window track replacement material. White and Company, it was a handicap parking lot plan.
Zach, so what's our expectation? I mean, if all these windows are so heavy that they could crack, I mean, like, are we gonna see $3,400 like once every 6 months? Once?
No,
I mean,
this
what-
is probably once every 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just this type of window, it's just very heavy, and I don't know what else to say about it.
Okay, that's fine.
Then White Company, the handicap parking lot, it was the plan to be in compliance with the Attorney General and ADA. We finally received the invoice, that was the $2,450. Strategia,
On White and Company, what work did they perform for us?
they actually drew the plans for the parking spots and had the plans for the signs and the striping.
Okay, so that's planning work.
Business card, the 3,900 was for our business card stationery letterhead with the new logo for the entire district. Next item is Action Learning Systems. This is Common Core Professional Development, $12,000. Next item is Power Plumbing and Heating. That was to repair the drain tile at Blythe. We finally received the invoice. The repair was made, invoice paid. Next item is Kevin Spitalny. He did quite a bit of painting at Blythe. I believe it was the auditorium walls and the floor that were not included in the renovations. Next item is a school reach. That's our emergency notification service. And then the final item for current expenditures is Paula Kluth Consulting, Staff Development. I believe that's special ed, or related to special ed, or
Police restrictive environment.
On the action learning system, is that being tagged at all so that we can, at the end of this all, quantify the cost of the Common Core professional development?
Yes, we have
an accounting on that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, for anticipated expenditures, traffic study for handicap lane in front of Hauser and Central. We were working with the village. I offered them our traffic study from 2011. They said that was not updated, it was not current enough. A new traffic study would cost $9,000 and they're asking the district to pay half of it.
So what's driving the handicap parking study, or can you explain?
Yeah, we have students that the parents have a hard time pulling in, having the student come the exit out of their vehicle and into the school because of the amount of traffic we have out in front. So if we have a handicap parking lane, they can easily have access to the sidewalk.
The challenge, I think, too, Randy, is that there are now handicap spots in the back, but those doors are locked when students are dropped off. So currently, even if they wanted to park their car and walk their child around or get them in, they could go all the way around the building.
So we would be talking about providing a designated handicap space, is that right? With a ramp or something?
It would just be I believe it would be a painted area in front of the school, and there may be
a ramp of sort.
Depending on where they feel the spot should be.
So it would be similar looking to the one that's in front of RB on the Ridge, I don't know what that street is. The street that's right in front of it's got a painted spot that's just left.
I would think so.
I think is what it would kind of resembles.
I just question why we need a new traffic study for that.
I asked the same thing, and they said it wasn't current enough.
We already paid for a traffic study too.
We had one
We
done
have
in
one.
2011 and in 2007.
I would say very little has changed since 2011. when
That's why I submitted. I gave them.
I know what you're
yeah.
saying.
I agree.
I
mean,
support.
that was-
I mean, it seems to be a unnecessary expenditure.
Well, let's ask the question, what happens if we say, fine, we're not going to contribute to this, then what? Will they do?
I don't know how fast they'll move on going forward with this.
What, I guess my other question is, we can't put in a handicap, well, the handicap lane is on village property.
Yes.
Right.
So for them to designate the spot as handicap, they want to do a traffic study.
Right.
Is there some results from a study that would make it easier for them to place the spot or less easy? And then maybe that's not the right terminology, but like, does the are they looking for the traffic study data to be able to drive their approval of putting a lane in or not approval of putting the lane
I
in?
think they're looking for it to put an approval of the lane.
And so
the
there's certain,
location
but
of
are there
the spot.
certain criteria that they're looking to, for, I mean,
I would
like a
imagine-
number
I
of
don't know.
cars? I don't,
Yeah,
I don't know what
they
the
are.
criteria are that would say, yes, we need a handicap spot, different than what would be in 2011, to your point.
Yeah. Well, it's, we need a handicap spot, right? I mean, we all agree on that.
Right.
And they agree. It's just a matter of where you put it and how you get there.
I mean, I could push back, but I don't know if you want me to push back, it's probably gonna delay this process.
I think it might be helpful to understand the goals of the study. I mean, what are they trying, what are we trying to achieve together? I mean, in regards to this issue.
Well, according to, when we initially spoke with the village, the traffic study will determine where the lane will begin and end, where they're gonna place the lane. So, where is it gonna be in between Central?
Right.
And Hauser is gonna be more toward the entrance way to the back, in front of Hauser?
Is there more than one we're looking at?
No, it would be
Just
one.
be one to service two schools.
And we tried putting up cones and a handicap sign, and we were told to take it down.
Do we have any idea what the cost of putting in the lane itself is?
No.
It's just.
I'm assuming it's just a painted spot, and if they have to do anything with the sidewalk, I can't see that being a
It would
significant cost.
probably have to be a curb ramp.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that's gonna be.
I mean, there is
So that's
there
construction.
currently is a curb ramp at the district office entrance that exists. I mean, I don't know if that we could
So that
use
would
that
be
or
the
not,
most
but it
convenient
would
Well,
be.
place, right?
We gotta do a traffic study to determine that, I guess.
So what's our direction? What do we want our direction to be for 2011? Doesn't seem that long ago. Come on. I mean,
I guess our direction would be to see if we can
Use the old one?
use the old one. Say the
Dust
board
it off.
requests you to use the old one.
I think you did.
I
And he
did.
said he
I
wanted
sent
it.
The old one, they told me no.
Well, then the board says we're not gonna pay the $4,500
yes.
for a new one?
I'm sorry, did you?
Can't we just tell them, this is it? I don't
I'll tell whatever you
understand
want me to tell them.
who,
Now, that
Who
that
says-
traffic
who
study
selects?
was ours, right? We did it?
We
Yes.
did it, I think.
So we paid for all of it 2 years ago.
Oh, one in 07 and one in 11.
so again in 2014? But this is gonna be their study, the village's study.
Yes.
I'd
So
say
they'll-
just throw it back at them, see if, I think the 2011 study should suffice. And just
Well, is there data missing from 2011 that they're trying to get for 2013? What is it? Maybe we can,
I mean, I've read the study, it doesn't say much. I mean,
Well, maybe that's why they don't like it.
It just has a, I mean, it talks about the direction of the vehicles,
Right.
the street.
I mean, that'd be helpful to know, is if the report that we did in 2011 is not comprehensive enough, then,
Yeah, why,
okay.
why is it
Right.
deficient? I guess that's
Okay.
the, maybe we could ask, we
just be
don't
helpful.
understand what they would think, what they would get today that they didn't get 2 years ago.
Any idea of how much ours cost?
No, I don't know.
All right. Anything, we got the installation of the kiln?
Yes, there's a request for an installation of kiln at Blythe. We have a location set for the kiln. The problem is, there's no electricity. We need a 220 outlet for the kiln. and we need a ventilation system put in for the kiln. So just to install the kiln would be $3,000.
Is this do we not have any kiln there at all now? Is this?
No, we don't have one there right now. We only have one at Ames.
We don't. Came out.
That's one. Oh, and, I'm sorry.
And then here.
Hauser.
So are we saying that every school has to have a kiln?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
I'm just trying to understand what.
I'm saying school, I'm telling you
Kiln.
schools do that.
I think it's KILN.
Why do we need a kiln at Blake?
Well,
There's
it's-
an art program, that
But it hasn't had one.
No, it had
Equal
one
It had one?
prior
I
Kiln.
believe
to
it
it.
had one, and they are, I think they take it somewhere to,
Previous location of the kiln is now what the teacher's lunchroom is, so you can't put it back in there. So this other location is at the other end of the basement, and it doesn't have the ventilation, as you were saying, Zach. So, Light Park did have the kiln for many years.
We currently have it, so.
It's there, but it's.
What you're saying is that the construction probably eliminated the space where, or,
Spot where it
I
was.
think it moved it. It moved to a new location.
okay.
And that new space doesn't work. Just,
It would need the ventilation system put in.
I assume. And it didn't have the right 220
Right.
breaker.
They're like, right, outlet.
So
That was a
what's the
long time.
cost on this?
It's $3,000 for the installation.
I say we go ahead and approve that.
Well, no. All right, we just are trying to understand the expenditures. All right, and this is upcoming.
Yes.
Next month.
Right,
Have
next
you-
month.
I presume you've already contracted for that.
We have an estimate, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. You want to, is there anything else here?
We had damage to the floor at Central's main office copier room. It was caused by our water service. Their machine was leaking. Apparently the water dripped under the tile and affected the south floor. The whole floor had to be replaced. So cost was $2,500. That has been repaired by the contractor. We paid for it, and we are seeking reimbursement for it from the water
Our
company.
company? Nice.
All right.
But you haven't got a response to that?
It's
Or you have, they said
Yeah.
yes?
They sent, one person has seen it, now their adjuster will be, is coming out, I believe, tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
All right, what have we been in the habit? All right, Zach, I think I want to thank you, and unless anybody has any questions on the
No,
remaining.
just when can we have Zach report back to Bob now, to report back to the board about kind of the discussion with the village about, as follow-up?
Okay, I agree, yeah. You'll report, yeah, this would be for the traffic study.
Yeah, for the
So
traffic
we want
study.
to follow up for the traffic study and how those conversations go. And I guess that can be at the next board meeting or, okay? All
Or
right,
if we get it, I can give it to you in a weekly update too.
Yes,
All right,
yes,
that
that's what
works,
that's
too.
what I was thinking. yes.
all right, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, next item on our agenda are our financial action items. May I have a motion to approve the payable pre-list?
I move that the board approve the payment of the list of general invoices, Schedule A-741, as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the payment list for the general invoices. Schedule A, 741. Call the roll.
Lisa Gaynor?
Aye.
David Kadama?
Aye.
Michael O'Brien?
Aye.
Randy Brockway?
Aye.
Rachel Marella?
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia?
Aye.
Arthur Perry?
Well, the motion to approve the general invoices, Schedule A 741, has passed. Our next item is the resolution to amend a 403B plan to allow for the Roth IRA option, as wonderfully summarized by Patty Gill. Thank you. May I have a motion to, for the board to pass the resolution to amend the current District 96 403B plan to allow for the Roth IRA option?
Do we have to read it? Actually read the resolution? Or
Is that our practice
I don't-
here?
I don't know. It's a resolution.
All right, then I will do so. A minute to find it here. Okay, thank you. Be it resolved that the Riverside Public School District 96 403B plan set forth in the plan agreement, a copy of which is attached, is, well, that's a certificate, is adopted, but we haven't adopted it yet. Is that the resolution?
Copy of which is attached, hereby adopted.
All right,
Yeah,
it's
you're-
hereby adopted. Resolve further that the District of District, that the
Director of Finance.
Director of Finance is hereby authorized and instructed to execute said plan agreement for and on behalf of the organization. That is the resolution. Can we,
I move to approve the resolution to amend the current District 96 403B plan to allow for a Roth IRA option.
Second.
Juanita?
Randy Brockway,
Yes.
Lisa Gaynor, David Kadama,
Aye.
Rachel Morella,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Arthur Perry, Mary Rose Mangia,
Aye. The resolution to amend the current District 96 403 plan to allow for the Roth IRA is passed. We have another resolution. This is historic building relief. Certain properties are, certain properties get assessment relief if they have a historic status, and our resolution will our resolution is to exempt those properties from our tax, from District 96, to limit the impact of that assessment on District 96 tax levy.
The resolution?
Yep.
I'm not clear on that. Mary Rose, could you summarize that again?
Well, I think it has applied historically to the village, but there are certain properties, they're probably homes, I know homes for sure, have a different kind of assessment treatment if they're historic properties, which effectively reduces their tax bill. And what we are doing is not allowing that assessment relief to carry over and affect our levy. In other words, they're not going to get the tax reduction.
Okay. So we're not going to allow the relief?
Allow that relief.
Okay. I understand now. Thank you.
All right.
I move that the board approve the resolution to elect that certain assessment relief provided by the Revenue Act of 1939 for historic buildings not apply to taxes that are levied by the Board of Education of School District 96, Cook County, Illinois.
Somebody want to second that?
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Rachel Morella,
Aye.
David Kadama,
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Arthur Perry, Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye. The resolution has passed on the historic building relief. Our next action item are board policies under review, resulting from the earlier policy committee meeting today. Our board policies for final adoption from IASB Press 82 is policy 2:120, board member development, policy 5:20, workplace harassment prohibited, and policy 7:340, student records, And our motion would be to adopt all three of these policies.
I move that the board approve the the stated board policies for final adoption as presented.
Second it.
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
David Kadama,
Aye.
Rachel Morello.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien, Arthur Perry, and Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye. Thank you. The policies discussed have been accepted. Now we have our new business discussion items. The first will be the crossing guard intergovernmental agreement. We have any questions on that? Or should I summarize where we're at on that? Let me do that first.
Mary Rose, I think that would be helpful. If you could maybe take us through the evolution of this, maybe from your initial meeting with the president and to where we are now.
Right, well, I'm gonna actually start prior to my meeting with the president. We have been paying for crossing guards. Oh, in the board packet, there is a worksheet that I've put together. Let me see if I can open this up.
Thank you. It was very helpful.
Well, I hope so.
It was really helpful.
It was helpful to me, so I thought I would share it with you. But it is in the, let me get this opened up here. Alrighty, so here we have it. All right. As my worksheet shows, we have actually been paying for part of these expenses since the year 2000. Specifically, we are paying for one crossing guard at Ames School, 100%. We are paying for one First Avenue and Forest Avenue at 50%. And we are paying 10% for a crossing guard at the Long Common Railroad tracks. And we have been paying for crossing guards, reimbursing the district, or the village, since, I believe, May of 2000. There are 3 additional crossing guards that we do not provide any contribution for. One is Long Common and Forest, one is Long Common and Burlington, and the other is Long Common and Nuttall. I guess Ben asked me to come visit him once, in which he could ask me if we would consider upping our, or increasing our participation at 50% across the board. He basically handed me an agreement they had drafted, and I said, thank you, Ben, I will continue to, bring it to our board. Additionally, RB has agreed to reimburse the First Avenue and Forest intersection at 33%. So that effectively lowers our percentage at 33% at that particular intersection. But the way this is handled is through a side agreement, a memorandum of understanding. And I did describe this, as Bob, I'm going to put that in her memo, and maybe that's the easiest way to kind of go through that, which I did. I actually printed that out. Yes. We've been asked to execute 2 agreements to implement a crossing guard arrangement. District 96 has been reimbursing the village for some crossing guards since May 2000. An IGA with the Village of River, you do have a copy of an edited version of an IGA with the Village of Riverside. We did send it to our attorneys, and they made some suggestions. It's included in board book. And the comments below, the following comments that I'm going to read, assume the village will approve all of the changes of our attorney. One is that the Riverside High School District 208 is not a party to the agreement. The version calls for a 50-50 cross share at every intersection. The RV share for the First Avenue intersection is addressed through a memorandum of understanding, which is also included in the board packet. Our attorney added a paragraph on page 1 of the IGA referencing the section of the Illinois Code that permits public schools to enter into an IGA for this purpose. So our attorney did add that. The IGA specifies the locations and number of guards at each location. The hours that the intersections are staffed are also specified, so it's very specific. The 6 guards and 2 substitute guards are employed with no more than 6 working at any time. The crossing guards are Village of Riverside employees. The IGA contains mutual indemnification and hold harmless. The agreement may be terminated any time within 60 days prior written notice, and the village is required to perform the appropriate background check. So that discusses the intergovernmental agreement itself.
Is this up for approval for the next meeting?
If we put it on the agenda.
Okay, so now it's for discussing whether to put on the next agenda. My understanding was President Sells and Village Manager were going to be here tonight to answer questions. I assume that's not the case. I don't see them in the audience. I do have questions for them that I'd like to ask of them before moving forward on this.
All right, they did send me some emails around today, and I believe some of the, well, let me ask your questions, and I'll see if they've gotten addressed.
Sure. I would like to know, have they asked any other entities to participate in the cost share? Because if we're going to start allocating who's imposing the burden on the crossing guards, I'd like to know, has he asked anybody else? I would suggest that, and I know for a fact it certainly doesn't only include District 96.
Well, they have asked the District 208 to provide cost share 1 of the crossing guards.
But not for the other ones?
No, and I think that's an interesting question.
Right, and and it includes St. Mary's as well.
Now you do understand that what some people might suggest is that St. Mary's, at least a lot of the students here live in town, and they pay taxes to our
Well,
district.
so do we. We do pay taxes as well to those but saying why it's District 96's burden as opposed to not the high schools included in St. Mary's. If we're going to start parceling out who should be out paying for what, whose responsibility it is, I think that we need to have a discussion with more than just District 96. Because as far as I know, both of those entities have students that also use those crossing guards. My second question I want to ask is, what happens if we say no? We're not going to even consider it. We'll continue to pay what we're paying with the Ames and the First Avenue. Is there anything else? That's the only ones we're paying right now.
No, we're paying 3, Long Common, part of Long Common Railroad tracks.
Okay.
10%.
10%, which I don't know how that came about.
I don't know the history of that. The one thing I will say is that I did, at least for the Riverside, of the Village of Riverside, our share of their total bill is about 27%. In other words, if you take all 6 of their crossing guards, add them up, and look at the part we're reimbursing, we're at 27%.
Oh, right.
Of the total.
Right.
And they're proposing 50% straight across.
Right.
With the exception of?
You get
the 1/3 of the
Yes.
First Avenue one. Yes, I understand.
Yeah, the other question I'd like answered is, they tout Illinois Code 511-8-80-23 that says that they are not obligated to provide or pay for crossing guards.
I did pull up that provision, and it does say may as opposed to the shall.
See, because I
So
don't like
that's
the
legit.
accusation that,
Yeah.
that our attorney will agree and everything like that, because I think it's a matter of interpretation. And it seems like they're putting it on us, and, well, we don't have to pay it, we're being nice people.
It's
Yeah,
May.
it's May.
Yes. And they don't have to pay it either, right?
Right.
That's what May means.
May
Yeah.
means they can, we can.
And by the way, I did send that email to Stan, and
We
he
all
basically agrees with it.
Agrees with which email?
So,
He agrees that.
The
Yes.
And there are other districts that pay it all. That the
Oak
Oak
Park,
Park and
we-
River Forest, or pieces of
the
River
two
Forest.
one is in
Right.
Oak Park and one is in River Forest. I mean,
I'm
doesn't
not
exist
suggesting
in-
that, I'm just saying that there's different variations of this, it sounds like, being
All right,
executed.
all over.
It does,
Yes.
it exists.
That's to the may,
Yes.
to the may word.
The May word,
So,
right.
Mary Rose.
It also, it
yeah.
exists in the school code because it's not an uncommon arrangement.
What, it appears to me as if the village isn't required to provide crossing guards, and neither is the school district. Am I correct in that?
It's may, you may do it.
So we may do it, and they may do it. So it's, where do we meet? I guess that's where, that's the million-dollar question.
Yes,
Well,
it is.
I would like to, again, I'd like to propose that they include other school districts and the other private schools in the area in that discussion, because if we're gonna start parceling responsibility, we need to do it fairly, not just say District 96, you're the only one that, potential patrons walking through are the only ones, imposing burden, and so that we should be the only ones taking on the cost. I think we need to more evenly divide it. If there was more open discussion of equal fair share, I'd be more open to the idea.
I certainly would think that they would want to look at enrollment. You've got 1,600 students here. So that might be one of the criteria, but
One of the comments in that article about Oak Park was, the man was saying, it's been a trying 6 months or a year trying to get all the information together and get the parties. So it takes, it would take time, and that's, and what they did do in Oak Park is they got 2 of the Catholic schools to participate, and 1 refused. So that's where they stand at present. It seems like every agreement that's reached on this is kind of a hybrid.
I get the impression that the reason why we're paying 100% of Ames is simply because they weren't going to provide one if we didn't pay for it.
No, and that one is very evident that the only potential beneficiaries of that are the District 96 students. I understand that. It's all the other
Well, you've got a lot
more
by
common intersections that I'm asking about.
You've got, certainly by the railroad tracks, and certainly you've got the one at Forest and Long Common. Definitely they're, marching both east and west.
We have a lot of commuters that are
And that's
trafficking through
commuters.
there as well.
I mean, you could also look at it, if you want to make it complicated, who's generating the traffic. I suspect a lot of it comes from the high school.
I think in the middle of town, a lot
And in
of
the
it
middle
comes
of
from
town,
there.
and,
The piece
so,
that comes.
I guess, you know what, I'm basically, I'm gonna declare my support to increase our share to a third across the board. And, have the.
A third?
33 rather than 50, because as you can see from the exhibits that I prepared, we also have stipends. And, in other words, we are stipending teachers. So in addition to anything we're asked to pay, we are also paying for an additional level. And the other concern that I have, I did have an email exchange with Ben today. And I said, he asked when we were going to move on this. I said, frankly, the complicating factor of trying to do something with multiple municipalities, because you can see I do have some costs in here for North Riverside. And I said, all that's really going to do is delay consideration.
Yeah.
And so where I'm at right now is I'm willing to enter into this agreement for 33% across the board, which is a slight increase in what we're currently doing. And maybe in the future, they can figure out a way to do this jointly. But there's certainly no way I would get involved with North Riverside or Brookfield if I weren't, if they couldn't tell me what they're doing with Kamarick and some of the other schools. And I think, Ben said maybe there's some potential somewhere down the future to maybe have one entity responsible for hiring all of them and saving some administrative costs. But I think at this point in time, I think to keep it simple, look at the agreement that we have. And I did put different reimbursement levels, 50, 40, 33, 27% where we are now. And
So, if we could just back up a second, District 96 provides the crossing guards in front of Hauser and Central, and that's stipend position. The Ames thing kind of jumps out at me as being a little unusual in that we don't have maybe a stipend person working there as we do here. We have one, but the other position is a village employee that.
I think we might have stipends.
We do. We have one stipend, but the other position
We have one at Central.
is a village employee.
Yeah, right here.
Don't we pay at
Yeah.
present 100% of that? Right?
Sorry?
It just seems having a village crossing guard in front of Ames is not consistent in what we're doing at the other schools. Maybe that's another way to put it. Here at Hauser, we don't have a village crossing guard. We have our own crossing guards, and we pay stipend, and it's about $1,100 a year for that. At Ames, it's a hybrid situation. I don't know how we ever arrived at that, but why?
It was just something somebody agreed to do.
Yeah, but isn't this not a good time to reevaluate how we fund, how we provide crossing guard at Ames?
Well, what is being proposed is that we just do a straight percentage across the board. So that is, in fact, reevaluating it.
Well, so you're saying that it would be 50%. We would pay 50% for that one guard.
We would pay 50% for every single crossing guard except First Avenue and Forest, where we would pay 1/3, the village would pay 1/3. We're converting from getting a different invoice for each location to 50% across the board,
Yeah.
except for the First Avenue, where we would pay 1/3, 1/3 with RB.
Are we suggesting that the crossing guards with stipends, is the stipends going to be eliminated if we accept this plan then?
No,
They're gonna continue?
No.
Okay, then that would, I don't see.
I mean, that's what I basically have done, and
I see
given
what you're saying, okay.
what our total cost for crossing expenses would be at various reimbursement levels with the village, plus stipends, and that's what that exhibit is attempting to demonstrate. Yeah, I mean, if we were to go,
So-
yeah, even if we were to do 50% of the village's total cost, we would still have additional costs over that because of the stipends.
We're gonna have that cost no matter what.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Because that's in our contract. Their collective bargaining agreement.
Right, but I guess that would be the question, would we feel we would want to eliminate them? I mean, they're there for a reason.
That's a discussion item with the union.
Well, I don't mean that exactly, not the cost. Do we feel there's no need for anybody to be there, whether they be, I don't know.
No.
I think if you've been around our schools, drop off and pickup time, particularly Central and Hauser and Ames, there's a need. There's a great need. It appears to me as if when we provide a teacher or paraprofessional to do it, we can do it for less money than the village can do it. we're talking $1,100 per stipend per year?
But that's in addition to their salary as a teacher or a parapro, they're also getting paid that.
Yeah, but you compare that to what the village charges, say, for that Ames, for the Ames crossing, and it's a difference. Do you follow?
Yeah,
But
what
the
I'm
cost-
saying is you would have to take their time for their paid as a teacher in addition to the stipend, that's the true cost.
The true cost is just $1,100 more.
Well, it's more, all right. I guess that's another way of looking at it.
That's-
So you want to
Is it
take on all
before
the.
their school day starts? I thought.
Well,
Well,
why not
look,
eliminate the
a village
Ames?
crossing guard has built-in training costs that's in it, correct?
Yeah.
What?
Right? The
Yeah.
village is training these crossing guards. They go through training. They're not just volunteers. They get paid a certain amount of money and they're out there. But
so how about the crossing guards that are stipend by, are they trained by the village?
I don't know,
No.
No, I don't
but
believe
they're
so.
directed, I
No.
don't, you know what, I guess here's the question, do you really want to take over full crossing guard responsibilities at Ames? Not have, a trained person there at all?
Well, that's what we're doing here. I just see inconsistency in the way we've approached Ames and Central Housing.
Our crossing guard here also is aided by a traffic light, right?
And I think there's
And there's no traffic light over at
eighth
Ames.
graders too, right?
There is a traffic light, yes.
But there's no traffic light at Ames.
No traffic, no.
Right. So I mean, kids are crossing with a light here versus crossing with nothing over
Yeah.
there. So they're the same, but they're not the same.
Can
Yeah.
I make a suggestion? I think that, it's not saying it's not an important topic, but I would like some more answers as far as the cost sharing idea. And we have a lot, I say we continue to pay what we're
Yeah.
paying. I think we should put this off, table this into next year or to somewhere down the line. We've got a lot of important things to discuss tonight. Can we put
We
this off?
can't vote on it tonight
No,
anyway.
we
right?
can't.
So
And I
let's
also think that
push the next meeting.
I mean, it's important to keep the kids safe coming to and from school. So with that, I think is to be the common goal
and
of
also
all
if
of
you-
this. But I also think you have to consider that Brookfield's not on here either. I mean, Brookfield does have 3 crossing guards,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is what we came up with, that are paid by the Brookfield Village. So you've got Brookfield, North Riverside, and Riverside.
Well,
Yeah.
there
Do we
isn't-
pay one? Do we pay all 3? How do we work it out?
There is no formal request from anybody else.
No, I'm just.
And that's part of the reason I would like to go down, would not, prefer not
Now
to
we get
do
back to the fairness issue.
50% across, 50% across the board. But that's, part of the reason I don't want to do 50% across the board. I'd like to do something less. And again, the village can make their, try to find somebody else to pay for the rest of it. The other thing is that there is a cancellation clause, 60 days at any time. So at any time we want to reevaluate this, I think, I'd rather not make it too complicated. We either want to do a cost share or we don't, and we determine the level we want to do it at. And you can go, and if the village is, this is what we're going to do. and
Well,
you-
we're already doing one. Are
We're
we-
at 27.
Right, and you could just formalize that.
Yeah.
Right, and
And
so.
don't have an IGA, we're doing 27%,
Right.
and
I think, I don't believe that asking for a greater participation from us is unreasonable. But at the same time, we talk about the funding and everything so we have to fit this within our budget.
correct.
We've already, our tax levy vote says that we're not gonna have as much revenue as possible. We need to be looking for places to save money, not to be increasing our cost, our bottom line cost and all. So we need to figure out how this is gonna fit within our budget.
Well, the 27%.
So are you?
So this
are
is
you-
my concern, about increasing it right now, is that we're seeing some saving, there's some expected savings on the teachers' recognition event, but it's a few $1,000s and all. But we're also seeing other areas where we're expected to see much, additional expenses. Whether it be from technology or from special education in resources that need to be increased or what have you. We still haven't realized the savings yet, and so I would ask us to be very cautious about starting to increase our expenditures.
I agree. That's
Well,
why I
and
think we
maybe
should.
I agree,
the
and that's-
approach is to spend what we're spending now, but as we re-look at our budget, if there becomes opportunity of savings in one place, maybe we can then consider a different allocation as we go forward.
But we're not there now. And
No.
we'll be for a little while.
I would just disagree. I think Ben Sells put it so well when he said, this is, and Bob Uphughes from the Landmark in his column, that this is more about community, a community coming together and sharing responsibility over a very important item, as opposed to trying to cut the pie in so many different little ways here. So I think we should make some effort, show some level of coming together with the village on this. And I don't think staying at 27% is that. I would, at minimal, go along with you, Mary Rose, and increase it to the, 33, is that what you said?
That's what I'm prepared to support, but what I'm kind of echoing, this is a discussion item at this time, and next month, we can make this an up and down vote. We could have people make motions from everything to fifth, starting at the highest and working on down to 0, and let's see what it gets. And in the meantime, if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask Ben, you can either route them through me or I can have him contact you directly. He sent a couple of emails out on some questions, or I don't know if I forwarded them all, but I'd be happy to. But it is, nobody, I think, I'm fairly comfortable in saying that neither entity has to provide any guards. And we're either going to have guards at our locations or not. And it's just that simple. In other words, I think we've got a lot of information already, and I think it's whether you want to support it or you don't, and to what degree.
I agree, let's just,
Yeah, and
can
that's
we
about it.
stop
Yep,
discussion
let's go.
and vote on it next week?
All right. All right, thank you. Here we go. All right. Next next discussion item is the use of the emergency days for the 2013-2014 calendar.
As you all know, we took Monday, January 6th and Tuesday, January 7th as emergency days due to the weather. So we need to make up those days. Those dates are built into our calendar. This is just for discussion. We would like to take action in April once the inclement weather, we hope, is over. But what we're proposing right now, we've discussed this with our leadership team as well as ADLT, is use our built-in emergency days, which is June 6th, Friday, and Monday, June 9th. I've gotten some feedback on using Institute Day on April 28th in lieu of one of those emergency days, so we wouldn't have to come to school on the 9th. But I've also gotten some parent feedback that they've made some plans for scout-related trips. So, not saying here nor there, I'm just presenting you with the information because you're going to have to take action on amending the calendar. So, those are the 2 days, and if there's any opinions that you want me to share, I can.
So, one of the proposals would be taking the 28th?
Monday, 28th.
And making that a formal school day. And then taking that day and making it Institute Day June 9th.
Could do that, yep.
Oh, right, we could do that. That was
Yeah,
the
we
other
have to make up the
option that
institute day because you have to have 4 institute days.
Right, right.
Because I talked with some parents, a lot of them expressed concern that after the 6th, a lot of them will be on vacation on the 9th. I don't have to miss. Is that last day of school? Would that be a full day of school, or is that the little
full, right?
show up for 10 minutes and
No.
shake
believe it's
hands?
a full
and
day.
call
Full,
it?
it has to be full. We can't do that anymore.
We've done
Really?
that before, though.
No,
No,
we
we
were.
can't do that
The
anymore.
law has
The
changed.
law has changed.
All right, well, we can't do that. All right.
Thank God.
So the little 10-minute days go on forever.
Thank
Oh,
God.
forever.
Okay. All right. So that would have to be a full day. My impression and feedback I get from community members is to switch to institute days.
Okay.
Okay, and I've gotten some feedback,
Like you
too.
said, we don't know,
Right.
next week we could have a snow day.
No, I agree.
And that
Yeah,
throws
I
everything
agree
out
with
of whack, so-
the wisdom of waiting till, April to see what we do, but in the meantime, if any parents or teachers want to give feedback, because, maybe some teachers have vacation days planned on the 9th. I don't
That'd be
know.
June 9th we're talking
So,
about?
yeah. So, yeah, I think we have to wait and see where the chips fall. All right,
Right.
very good.
Okay.
That's good.
But Bob, does that have any impact on, like, the graduation?
Yeah.
How's their eighth
And
grade?
we taught, Lisa and I just exchanged an email because I know that they're getting ready to coordinate that. We'd have to adjust it, or we'd have to do something, because and I don't know how graduation works. Do we expect 8th graders to come back?
In the past,
They haven't shown up
they
on
haven't.
Friday.
They have not.
Have not.
Okay, so we may have to.
But if we went to Monday, then,
So right now you have Wednesday, June 4th is graduation. They do not show up on
On
Thursday the
Thursday.
5th, which is the technical
which is technically the
day.
last day, right?
Okay, so if we changed it to Thursday the 5th, they wouldn't have to show up on Friday the 6th, if we changed it.
Yeah, but if we have school on
the
Monday the
9th.
9th, then we got another whole.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so we can't make that decision right now, we have to wait and see where the,
How many more?
So likely
Yeah,
we would
well, I
have
better
to
just
adjust the
reserve space for the whole
graduation.
week.
and I remember sitting in your audience last year, and you had the flood day? So you had to adjust
We
your
had
calendar back in April, right?
Yeah, we had two, I
Or
think.
May,
I don't recall
whatever
that we
it was.
changed the graduation date, though.
No, we made it work without changing the graduation day.
So what happens now? You're gonna come up with a.
Right, I just wanted to share with you that we may potentially be using emergency days.
Okay.
We don't know where,
Okay.
or an institute day.
'Cause I'm going.
Okay.
So it's just an information item, and that we'll
Thank
bring
you.
it up to you at a later date.
All right, the next item then is the 2014-2015 calendar.
Yes, and I want to thank our very patient teachers who are going to present with Dr. Gannon for waiting. This is the last item on the agenda for new business regarding their input. But we met as a district leadership team as well as with the all-district leadership team and started looking at this calendar draft for next year. As you can see, we've come up with 6 drafts. This is the one we're presenting you. It is aligned with RB 208 as well as District 94 and 95. The superintendents met and tried to coordinate as much as possible institute days, days off, and spring break. So this is the final draft product that we've come up to you with. And just some highlights for you. We are starting school Institute Day on Monday, the 18th of August. We'd have 2 Institute Days. We'd continue with the trimesters. Our first Institute Day after that, when school started, would be on October 31st. It would be a half-day school for students and a half-day in service for teachers. We would do November 2014, we'd go into a half School Improvement Day on November 13th, which is a Thursday, and then teachers would have a parent-teacher conference that afternoon and evening, and then on Friday it would be the morning for Institute Day. So we would go to school, students and staff, on Monday, November 24th and 25th, the week of Thanksgiving, where right now they have the week off, and that's used for parent-teacher conferences. Spring break would be the last week of March, and we would have an Institute Day on Friday, the 27th of March. So families could potentially have that Friday off plus the whole week. And then Monday the 6th, we would take that Easter Monday because Easter is on Sunday the 5th next year. And we would get out of school if there are no emergency days used on Thursday, May 28th. So those are the highlights. We've also put together a draft for you of a late start proposal that is very similar to what RB does. It would be on Thursdays. And the real impetus for this is just increasing professional development time, more consistency, getting the information out to our teachers. With so many initiatives going on, we thought that this was the best way to be fiscally responsible and keeping our staff current with the new initiatives and professional development. So I'm going to turn the proposal over to Dr. Gannon and staff to share their benefits and future consideration about this draft.
Staff? Well, first, I also want to thank you guys for sticking around. Brian Trimmer, hopefully everybody knows Brian. He teaches at Hollywood, and he's also on our 21 TQ committee. He's a 5th grade teacher. Christina Betancourt teaches here at Hauser. She is on our ELL committee. And Mr. Kurt Preble teaches at Blythe, and Kurt is on our CCAT committee. We don't have anything very formal. We actually just have one slide, and it's just going to. And I think you guys have seen it in the.
It's in your packet. Yep.
It'll show just the benefits and future considerations if we were to move towards an late start. I'm sorry, formats. Okay, what the proposal would be we're not going to get into too many specifics tonight unless of course you have questions. Part of that is because we don't have that many specifics right now, but this is just, we're just really starting to plan for this as a possibility. But the idea would be for the elementary schools and the junior highs to start about an hour later on Thursday morning so we can get together for professional development. And some of those benefits of doing that would be we'd have 36 hours of professional development that wouldn't cost the district additional funding. We would have no additional cost for substitutes because there wouldn't be any students there. Now, of course, there are some things we need to consider if we do that. But we wouldn't have any additional sub-costs because we were providing the professional development during non-student time, so students wouldn't be at school yet. And our teachers would not be released from instruction, which I know that we've talked quite a bit about. And I'll be honest, and I'll share, I know I'm going to have you guys share a little bit too. I'm fully aware that we pulled our teachers out a lot this year. And part of it as we get down here is all the work we're doing. And even within that time frame of pulling teachers out, we still haven't found that consistency of moving to the next level of whole staff. Christina, you're gonna.
Yeah, so, for example, right now I'm part of two committees, and I'm in HLT, and I'm in ADLT. So, some of these committees meet after school. Some of these committees meet during the day. And being part of 4 different groups, I mean, I'm basically out of my classroom a lot. And my primary job, the reason I'm here, is to be with my students. But being in these committees furthers my professional development, right? I would like to be able to do both. Where when we have a consistent weekly meeting, I'm not having to create, from the teacher perspective. When I'm gone, I want something useful. I'm not the kind of teacher that just like pops in a video because I'm gonna be gone. I spend usually like an hour to 2 hours planning sub-plans so that there's meaningful learning happening when I'm not there for my students. It's a lot, like it's a lot to ask people to be able to like take away time for professional development when they're supposed to be teaching. So this would take that kind of stress away, and on top of that, it saves you money on subs. So that's kind of, like, I see it as a win-win situation.
Thank you. And another thing I just wanted to, before we get into some of the committee stuff, is that what I think we're struggling with the most, and it's based on our calendar really, is that consistency. Where we would be able to come together every week, and we were kind of joking around a little bit today, we're like, now when we're together, the first 15 minutes is spent just like, hey, how are you? Because you haven't seen the other staff members in quite some time, but we need to build in that consistency where we see each other a lot and we work together a lot and we're able to collaborate a lot, and we're able to do that based on different areas of focus as well as based on different groups working together, and we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later, but we'll have that consistency so everything can run smoothly as opposed to having an Institute Day in September, another one hopefully in January, and then another one in May. And that's the only time that we're really...
I can just jump in. For me, I'm over there on the other side of First Avenue, and weeks could go by before I see another fifth grade teacher, so I'm so excited to see Steve and Kurt here. I'm like, oh, look, other people. And, we do great work when we come together, and it's just when there's those gaps between them, it's kind of like that continuity is lost, where it's like, okay, 3 months ago we talked about this. How's that going for you? Well, it's not that necessarily as immediate as it has been. I know when we started rolling out the one-to-one, they started in the 5th grade, and we had a big thing, and we really wanted to meet together, and we didn't have that consistent time. So Central teachers and myself, we planned together. We Skyped once a week on just during our lunch hour, just to sort of build in that idea. And it worked well at the time, but Skype couldn't do, we didn't have the bandwidth to do actually multiple FaceTime, so it just was a voice. And so I remember I'm talking to my computer, and Mindy walked by and sort of looked in my room because she thought I lost my mind because I was just talking to like a computer. So it just, but it was nice to talk, to have that, but it wasn't face-to-face contact. I couldn't show them anything I'd been working on. But with this, obviously, we'd be getting together in the same room, sitting at the same table, talking to things. So I think that's, it's important coming from a small school for me, where I don't have a 5th grade teacher next door down the hall that I can talk to readily.
Yeah, and in addition to that, when we have Institute Days, we get all this great information, but we have very little time to be able to apply it and see how other people are using it and share ideas. And then we have to wait 3 months, and then usually that next Institute Day is a new round of information, where again, we don't have time to sit down and kind of figure out how are we going to use this in our classroom on an everyday basis. So that's really the information, because you can get the information, but if you don't have the time to figure out how you're going to apply it to your teaching, it's not making that final connection, which is the most important piece, back to the students.
And then at the junior high level too, this will allow us, our teachers, subject-based teachers, to get together and collaborate. Of course, we're gonna have a lot of stuff planned based on the committees, but we also want to just meet, the teacher needs in other ways. Junior high, we have a good schedule that allows for team collaboration, which means you'll have your LA Lit teacher on a team, and your math teacher, so 7 gold, it would be all the teachers of the students that are on 7 gold. But we do not have a system in place that allows all the science teachers to get together. And really start planning and making sure that our learning is on a strong continuum. All the math teachers to get together and so on.
So Brian, are you suggesting here that there would be a late start once a week?
Once a week.
Once a week, and that would replace the Institute Days?
Yeah, I would say yeah. I mean, some. We may still have. We may still have some in the schedule.
You have to have 4.
We're still required to have 4 Institute Days.
So we're talking about this in addition to the Institute Days?
Yes, but I guess what I was saying is that if we don't do something like this, we're going to have some additional time together where we would be able to use some of the Institute Days, but we would have more, I guess I wouldn't call them Institute Days, but we would have more release-type professional development days.
If I can jump in there with that, as you'll see when we get further through the slide, 2 things that happen with the current model of in-service days is that one is we have teachers involved in learning things that are great but don't 100% apply to us. We can be much more efficient and take on topics that 100% apply to what we do. as a fifth grade teacher in an elementary building, what I do on a weekly basis in this late start time will directly apply to what I do in fifth grade. We had an example we were talking earlier, if we're talking about a writing curriculum and we have 60 PE teachers there. Yes, they should know what their students that they teach in PE are writing about, but does it apply to them? It's not an efficient process.
Or do they need to spend 3.5 hours learning about it to never use it again?
Let me ask you, what sort of release time? You said if you don't do this, you'll have to have release time. What sort of release time are you already doing? Or have done historically? For
historically,
professional development?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, historically, the feedback I've been getting is that the district hasn't done a lot of release time. The also feedback that I've gotten is from some is in the past, the release time hasn't been considered effective by staff, and so that also kind of weighed on the amount of time. But for now, like each committee, like for example, our CCAT committees, like fifth grade is almost done. Their curriculum's almost fully aligned to Common Core, and it's only February. So I'm very proud of fifth grade CCAT team. But it's required time out of the classroom.
There's a huge but. Yeah, I mean, we've done a ton of work. We are 9/10 of the way done. Math's easy because there's 10 units. We're on 9.
90%.
But that's just planning it. Now, we have to implement it. Now, Steve and I are on the team together. As far as Brian knows right now, he has no idea what we got planned for him. He may try it out and say, this is nuts, this can't work, and we're like, all right, yeah, we didn't really think about that. When are we going, yeah, you might. When are we going to do that? When are we going to have that conversation? 2 times, maybe 3 times a year? And we have to do it on a consistent basis and a frequent basis so that we're able to tweak the things we need to tweak, because ultimately what's going to happen with this is that the kids are going to learn more because we are talking more.
Right, let me just kind of ask my question again, or maybe you were going to be able to.
Well, going back to your original question, I was just trying to reflect back. This is my 7th year here. I can remember when the laptops first rolled out. We were given, I want to say, it wasn't
like
quite,
4 or 5 days.
It wasn't quite monthly. It was like maybe 6 or 7 half
They
day,
were like
half
6.
days
Yeah,
to
they
get
were
together.
6.
And it was like half days when we would sit down and we would talk things through. And that, I mean, but that was, and I know that you guys didn't get them, but the next year when it came through, and it.
So the release time has been in conjunction with the laptop program.
It was where the most of it in my experience. Has been.
Or if you were doing like, for example, when we redid the entire science curriculum in the middle school, I was in that committee. We had release time to meet to be able to coordinate as a science department because it wasn't built in. But that being said, we've had minimal release time, but that's why we have all this work to do now, because we're behind in a lot of initiatives that we should have been doing in our district that we have not addressed, like the Common Core.
All right, so this is going to be for next year.
Well,
right, that's a proposal.
It's a
And how many of these
yes.
other things that you're talking about are going away, or is this will this, for example, what will you be doing with Common Core CCAT teams next year at the same time this is implemented?
Sure. So the hope would be, and it's really hard to answer the question right now, but I can tell you what the goal is. The goal would be for math and LA Lit to be completely aligned with Common Core by the end of the school year. So next year, as part of our Thursday meetings, we are, as Kurt was talking about, we are talking through and collaborating about how we're going to implement this. We're going to implement it together as a district. We're going to collaborate on things that are working, things we need to fix, things we need to improve on. Otherwise, those things happen, at best, quarterly. And that's not including the 6 days are under schedule, but at best, that happens quarterly. When we have initiatives that are this big, I don't want the district, personally, I don't want the district to wait quarterly to make continuous improvement on our instruction, especially when what we're doing is going to look very different than what we've done in the past. And we need to make sure that we're bringing all of our teachers along on this journey with us. And the only way I see to do that is for us to have a cycle of continuously getting together and for professional development.
Have you guys considered after school? hours?
I've been in a system where we did after-school hours. We had a 2:30 release day. I mean,
Like, could you do it with the release day as is? And I assume, would we be, the district may be on, have to pay stipends at a certain point. I don't know if the hour is that it stops, but I would say that after school might, I'm thinking about, I speak on behalf of the two working family households. And the late start is going to wreak havoc on that, especially if there's a YMCA not in place, which I don't know if you've talked to them yet.
Yeah.
And the half days as well, really do. And it's about predictability, and it's almost better to have a non-attendance day altogether than have these half days.
The feedback I've gotten is that it's, that this is a nice solution, and a nice idea for professional development and for staff, but it's internally focused and doesn't address, it's for the staff, by the staff, instead of for the customers.
if I can just say, it's for the kids. I mean, it's for improvement of instruction. I mean,
we understand
that's
that.
the goal.
We think we could do that. We could reach a middle ground here,
Well,
but let's see. Go ahead.
I just also have some concerns on this consideration, future, the right side of the chart. And those things focus on the kids. And there's a couple things on there that I'd like to hear your thought process on. Specials only happen a couple times a week. If you have a late start and a kid misses a special, how are we going to make that up? Specials are really important to me as to a kid's education. The second thing on here is less teacher-directed physical education. We currently sit in a society where I believe physical education, no matter directed by a PE teacher or directed by a teacher, is really an important part of kids, from an obesity perspective, but also from the fact that I think they're better learners if they get up and they go do something and they come back. Those things, not to say that the professional development isn't important, because I see both sides, but how do we balance that and not take away from what the kids have now? Because we want to be better teachers. I get it. It's important to be able to do that, but I don't know, some of those things.
Especially since we're taking away instructional time. You're taking away an hour a week now, and
Sure. Well, so
it stings a little.
To go back to Lisa's question, the TDPE is, we currently have in our schedule, we have 30 minutes 3 times a week of teacher-directed
Plus 2
physical education.
PEs, so it's 5 days a week, right?
Right. Now, so to gather time, I mean, it's again, it's something that it's a future consideration that we really need to put our heads around. But what ends up happening is you take that 90 minutes, and this isn't going to answer your second question yet, and you have 70 minutes of professional development in the morning, so you're actually increasing, without the TDPE, you're increasing 20 minutes of instructional time. Because you're taking the TDP out as a structured class, which is 90 minutes a week.
Right.
And you're having PD in the morning for 70 minutes a week, so you're actually increasing instructional time. However, and we talked a little bit about this today, I fully agree with you that our kids need to move around, that our kids need to be active. What we're talking about today is that those moments and times when kids need to be active can't always be predicted. And the TDPE classes right now are very structured times. And Kurt and I were talking today, and he said, sometimes, my schedule is at 8:30 in the morning, and I have the kids running around the school. He's like, they might have needed to run for 10 minutes that day, and they might have needed to run for another, or get up and do an exercise 10 minutes another time during the school day. So we're not saying that kids won't be able to move and get active. We're just taking that solid block of scheduled time.
Well, I guess in theory, that's good, but if it gets eliminated because it's not scheduled, then it's not good.
Right.
And I'm not suggesting that teachers don't do that teachers won't do that, but I think it's an important thing to remember for kids. And so I look at it both sides, and I just want to make sure that we think about those
And I
things,
think
because
as teachers, we definitely agree with that. It's just more or less the schedule and the structure of it is going to change a little bit. I'm definitely, on days I don't have PE, will have my kiddos out there moving in some capacity. It might just not be at 8:30 in the morning right after the pledge for a half an hour. It might not just be at 11:30, in the morning after, language arts block. it'll be somewhere in there. But for a half an hour to do, something that we could get knocked out of 15 minutes in the morning, do another 15 minutes in the afternoon, that might be more conducive to our learning than just having this scheduled time, and then we can use this time for something much more beneficial.
Well, you're right, though, it does run the risk, if it's not scheduled.
Well, I mean,
you absolutely run the risk of it not happening.
You lose it. You can lose it.
You could
easily.
lose it. I mean, and so
No.
yes, for those teachers that can creatively schedule or think about it, it becomes part of their day. But for others, maybe not. And then you've got an array of
think it
difference
too, it
going on.
opens up stuff.
So Lisa, isn't it required by the state of Illinois to have PE
It is.
every day?
It is, you have to have some
It is.
type of physical education every day.
So if you don't have it teacher directed, what are we saying if it's not teacher directed? The kids are going to decide on their own to do this?
No, it would still be teacher directed, we're not saying that, but I think what Lisa is saying is that if it's not scheduled, you could
Right.
lose it. I mean, it would still be teacher directed, but it would be different times of the day where teachers thought it was most appropriate that kids needed that time. So it would still be teacher directed, it just wouldn't be fit in as blocks in the schedule. as
It
to
wouldn't
this
show
time,
up
this time, this
on
time.
a schedule.
Correct.
Not necessarily.
As it does
and-
now.
Right, and then, where does that lead? And that's just a challenge. And I agree with what Kurt's saying. If you know your kids need it, you make it happen. But if you know it's required, you also make it happen. So,
I don't know if this'll help, if this makes a lot of sense, but I'm required to teach math for 75 minutes a day. How do you know I do that? It's my job to do it, right? Same thing here. I'm just not doing it in a half-hour block.
And we've collected data for 2 weeks, the principals have, and you're saying it's all across the board. It's all across the board. I mean, there's some classes in some grade levels in some schools that are doing it every day and they have a activity, and other schools in other grade levels are going outside to play. And that's the data that we've collected. And some have said we don't get to it, depending on what the day is. So I think if we say our focus is going to be this, we're eliminating TDPE. However, we're requiring brain-based instructional breaks throughout the day that should equal, however, whatever we decide as a district, we can put that in place as an expectation. As Kurt said, sometimes my kids might need 20 minutes, sometimes they might need 5.
So are we debating this TDPE because of the late start? I mean, does one of those have to give?
Not completely, but, that's, without having that
Take your
scheduled time for 30 minutes, 3 days a week, we capture 90 minutes of instructional time.
So if we have the late start, then the teacher directed
yeah.
PE
Yeah.
has got to go.
The way that it is right now,
it's
yes.
got to go from hard scheduling to
Yeah.
creative
To
scheduling.
soft scheduling.
Right, how,
And does that meet the state of Illinois' requirement?
There is a possibility that we could have, need to look into a waiver depending on what we decide. But I don't know if there's a time, and I'm not saying we want to skip by, but I don't know if there's an actual time commitment from the state. I do know that there are a lot of districts that do have, they do waivers because they just can't staff it. They don't have teacher-directed PE and they just can't staff PE, so they have waivers of PE every day, so they have waivers for that. I also do, I'll be real honest and say that the way it is right now, it doesn't seem like a huge sacrifice for the TDPE because of what's happening in TDPE. I mean, it's like Dr. Trump said, it's all over the place. I mean, sometimes, in one school it might be kickball, in one school it could be this great, activity. In another, building, they could be doing, I don't know, bowling. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no consistency as far as
But it's movement.
curriculum and, in some
To
cases more than others. I
someplace.
mean, kickball, some kids are moving, some are, yeah. I mean, so if there was more of a, if it was more targeted type of activities for a shorter amount of time, the kids might get more out of it.
Brian, how much later is the start on Thursday?
It would be
1 hour.
about 70 minutes later.
Was
An
it
hour.
70?
Yeah, 70.
All right, so it's an hour, but now, why is it 70? Because is there a travel time, and what is the travel? 5 minutes, 5 minutes? I mean, where would the professional development take place? Inside the building? Each building?
They would be
or-
inside buildings, yeah.
So why do we need travel time?
Because we'd have grade levels together, light groups together, sometimes whole district together. So we, yeah.
So if
we-
fifth grade's
not-
together, they gotta go to
you'd
fifth grade
Pad
someplace.
in the 10 minutes, 5 minutes travel time, 5 minutes travel time to get to
At least.
70, at least. So it may not be 60, it may be 80 minutes.
No, the time.
No, it might be
School-
70 minutes, but it only might be
Exactly. 50 minutes of PD.
50 minutes of being together, or 45 or something like that.
Well, and the other thing too is that the teacher day starts significantly earlier than the student day.
Right.
So for us, it might be an hour of time, but for what the students come in, do you get what I'm saying, is a slightly different time.
Yeah.
They meet from
And
8
then
to 9,
it-
they come in at 9:20.
Right.
Are we under violation of any of the collective bargaining agreement?
Well, one thing that we do have here is sufficient travel time. We definitely need to make sure that we're not. I think what Rachel's proposal, or not proposal, but what Rachel suggested, the after school with the possible stipend, that could get a little bit more complicated because we're in a agreement right now, and I don't know if we could say that you have to stay, even though you get paid contractually, and that would be a conversation that we'd have to have with the RAC, but.
But you couldn't require, I feel like with that scenario, well, one of the things that we talked about was that you couldn't expect 100% attendance because it can't be required more than a certain amount of times outside of the school, out of the certain number that is approved by the contract. And so the issue there is like, would you want only 70% of the teachers to be
Well,
up
that's
to
up to
date?
the teachers if they want to attend or not. That's dinner there. But I'm just trying to say, like, as far as
Well,
fairness
it's
for the working
problematic.
parents, like, how do you can't, you've got one day a week, now that's an hour later. We don't all have a parent at home or nannies, and that's a lot to impose upon families, working families in Riverside, is what I'm suggesting. And even if you didn't get 100% attendance, well, it's better than what you had. I just would like to ask that you think of those things when sitting down doing the calendar. I understand the professional development and collaboration, all those things are important. But so is the community you're serving, and so is our situation, and we really gotta, and it's not about, it's not that the school is babysitting, it's about predictability and about having things in place. I mean, the whole half-day kindergarten is already, and having nothing afterwards to supplement is already catastrophic.
Sure.
And it's something we had when I moved to the district, and now it's been taken away. So it's now, we're taking away more, and I don't know what people are expected to do. Just think about the practicality of that in any way that we can
Absolutely.
accommodate everyone.
Absolutely. And I think, to go back real quick, is that in one sense, it's very difficult not to have everybody there, because if my child is in this certain classroom, I sure hope that teacher had that PD, because they're moving in another direction. They're becoming 21st century learners, and we have great teachers. It's not, I get that, but if you don't have the training of the PD to move forward, then what happens to the kids in that classroom? I know you might say it's a teacher's decision, but there's also 25 kids in that room as well. But we have been working with the YMCA. They have already offered to, very willingly, to provide programs on Thursday mornings. But the complication becomes of that is that, like, the YMCA is definitely willing to do it, and they've been wonderful. But is there a way that we can make it so it's not an extra cost of families? Because again, if that's what families choose or need to do Thursday morning, and then we're saying, well, the YMCA will be there, but it's going to cost so and so
$15 or something.
Right, you're right. We're not really solving the problem, because now we're saying, because you're working,
Gotta pay
we have a
more.
place for you, you have to pay. So those are, that's why the future considerations, because this is definitely not foolproof. And our goal would be to make it a win-win for everybody. And that parent piece and family piece is huge. It's huge.
Is there any way to have a hybrid instead of every Thursday, 2 Thursdays?
But it's a predictability issue.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, if you do
Might
it.
make it
That
worse.
That won't erase the obstacles that we have in front of us.
No,
That
it won't.
does is reduce the amount of time that we're actually going to accomplish things. Now, granted, you're not going to accomplish everything in the hour each week anyway, but there's things you can assign your team to work on during the week, come back and talk about and reflect on and change some things how you're doing. If we change that to just
twice a month,
It's,
you're losing time, but you're not helping.
right, so it's really not a good,
For
I
school
mean, it's
care
just,
situation
I
either.
was
Well,
just,
and I think one of the things too that
talking
we
out loud.
discussed actually pertaining to the student care before school is that RV also has a late start program, and we're trying to coordinate it so it's on the same day, so if there are older students, do you get what I'm saying, that, or older children that are in your household, like, that offers, like, frees up one kind of possibility, but obviously we know that won't fulfill every family, and that's why you guys have spoken to the YMCA and tried to come
Oh,
up with
my
some.
older child was at the high school, will be at the high school.
but they would be on the same day.
Would be on the same day?
Yes.
In the same day at the same time, because they do a late start also on Thursday, right?
I don't know if that's a good solution either. I mean, you're not gonna, that's very few families that they're gonna impact. I think that's gonna be a hard sell. I appreciate you guys thinking that through, but I still think that's gonna, not a good way to go. We can look at elsewhere.
So Brian, you started by saying that we've had a lot of meetings this year. And, yeah, I've raised my hand several
Yeah,
times,
that's fine.
and everybody keeps looking at me when you talk about this stuff.
It's a very valid concern, and I know for
Yeah,
years.
and are we gonna continue to have as many meetings next year?
So here's, and
I
that's a
mean,
great question. Here's the.
under our, you talk about Common Core committee, then you gotta move it to the whole faculty, right? So are we talking about continuation of the same number of committee meetings?
We would have to somehow, I'd say about the same amount of meetings. They would look a little bit different because we try to move it to the whole. So teachers would be pulled off the same amount of time, but we wouldn't necessarily have it like, we couldn't do everybody in one day because we don't have enough subs. So we would spread that out, but I think what would happen though is that each teacher though in a district would probably end up being pulled out as much as some of our committee groups are, to be honest with you. Basically, I mean, the way I see it personally is that we have a couple issues. We have one issue where we have a lot to do instructionally. We have a lot to do. And we have the right people to do it. I'm very convinced of that after my experiences here. But we have a lot of work to get done. So we need to somehow find the work to get done. So District 96 can, I mean, and I've said this before, and I firmly believe that we will be the benchmark. We should be the standard. We're not right now because we haven't fully developed these plans yet.
Has anybody?
Where speeding.
Has anybody?
Sure. I mean, Common Core full alignment, I would say no, but there's districts that are way ahead of us. RTI, absolutely, there are districts that have that down packed. Vera, yeah, there are districts that have their current plans done. 20% teaching and learning, this is ongoing, but there are districts that are further than we are. I mean, there's least restrictive environment, being fully inclusive, or more inclusive, whatever you want to say, there are districts that are doing more than we. I mean, you know, are we doing a good job? Are we doing, yeah, I mean, our kids are doing well, yeah, absolutely. But we could be doing better.
Now, are they going to continue to do well when the
don't have
assessments
any-
change? Are they going to continue to do well when the requirements change? And that's
we're-
what we need to be.
But then one would argue, or I'll argue that if the assessments change, that we should spend more time in the classroom instead of taking away instructional time 1 hour a day on Thursdays.
True, but I think that it's not, you know, if you keep teaching the same way, you're gonna get the same results.
Exactly.
I mean, you have
Right.
to change how you're teaching in order to
Right.
improve the results, teaching and learning.
It's an
We
investment.
know what's gonna happen
So,
now.
could some of this professional development, the meetings and stuff, could it not occur at the beginning of the school year
It's not
before
time.
the students arrive?
To do it all?
To do it all?
before?
Not all of it, but
mean, there's-
I'm saying more of it. That's what I hear from people that
We have
live
added
in my
a day.
neighborhood.
You've added a day.
We've added.
We've
one
added
other-
one day, but then we're taking away 60 minutes every week, and then we're continuing the number of meetings that we're having this year.
Not if we do
No,
this.
if we do this, we wouldn't have to have the
No,
pullouts.
if
That's-
we
No,
do this,
the
we
pullouts
wouldn't.
are
I thought
gone.
your question was if we don't do this, then
Yeah, no, this.
we have to
But-
somehow
This,
keep the.
this
This-
would replace all of the meetings that we're having this year.
I can never say all, but
Well-
it would look a lot different. I can share that it would look a lot different.
Well, we have,
It would look
you
like
and
different,
I,
yeah.
we have a relationship, you understand that, you know, how often have I been pulled out of the classroom this year for the Common Core meeting? That goes away. Because what still has to happen is, Steve and I still have to work with the rest of the fifth grade teachers in the district. Instead of being pulled out for days at a time, we do this once a week, and we get everybody caught up, and we're working with that. It's much more efficient, it's much more effective for the students.
How long is the Common Core meeting, you know, that you're talking about?
All day.
you know? What?
All day.
So when you pull them out, you pull them out all day, and how often does that happen?
Yeah, last Friday.
Fifth grade's on day 5? 4?
Well,
They're almost done though, I mean, that's.
Well, I mean, is it
We're-
once a week? I'm just trying to gauge.
No, it's, I think we've done it.
counting
4 times.
the whole group days,
Yeah.
we're on, it'd actually be day 7, because we had 4 with everybody. And we've met twice.
Oh, that includes, yeah, the 2 days of background knowledge.
So we're talking
So
about
the
like
fifth one,
7 days so far?
7th one is coming up.
I
That's
think-
just for
I think it'll
language
be a-
arts, Common
yeah, I
Core.
think
We
it'll be a
haven't
total
even
of
talked
7
about the
days.
other committees.
So, you know,
It's
it's,
a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot of hours. Now, next year, we're not gonna have to do this kind of work for Common Core.
There's some other work.
Because we're aligning the curriculum, but
You're gonna have to.
the reality is, the
Teach
CCAT
all the
knows,
teachers.
and CCAT's on board, and, you know, CCAT, hopefully after I get to review everything one final time, we'll be able to implement, but CCAT is less than a third of our teachers.
Right, so the 2/3 we gotta teach.
Yep.
So we built the car, now we gotta test drive it there.
so
And
can't
we can't
we,
do that.
can't we
Teach them to
start
drive
doing
the
more
car.
of that
Right.
during the off-season? You know?
Yes, but it has to be continuous because
You can't.
Well, you know, we've got
You still have to
technology,
pay 'em
we've got
off-season.
technology.
Right. No, I'm with
But-
that understanding.
Do we?
I mean, but we're gonna have technology now that should allow teachers to communicate,
But you still
without
need to be
being
face to
in the same
face.
room together.
Some of it's hard too, because I mean, for me, you know, the value of this model as I've sort of worked it through is, you know, Kurt and I can talk and, okay, this is what we're gonna work on this week. Go and do it. Hey, this worked great for me. Well, this didn't work at all for me. What? Okay, what's the disconnect? And I think it's hard to do that, like in the summer, you know, you could write curriculum, you can do those things. But without
You need
that, but
bodies
without
to-
students to actually,
Test it.
you know, it's like the old, you know, driving simulators versus actually getting on the road.
Well,
How are other
let me
districts
ask
doing
David and Lisa,
what
you,
this is
Yeah.
how,
This is how.
this is how
Lake
my
District?
experiences are. I
Which
couldn't tell
districts
you.
are we talking about?
I
Do
could
you
only
know?
tell you that, I mean, obviously, I know RB does it, I know.
I think Oak Park, River
Oak
Forest.
Park,
does
River
it.
Forest does it.
Naperville does it.
Everybody's
Arlington
doing
Heights
it, so we gotta do it,
59
right?
Does it.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
and we're not saying that everybody's
not-
doing it,
that's not
but
what they're
we need to
saying, though.
decide,
No, no.
I think, as a
I'm
district,
joking.
where do we want to be? If we want to be the best, if we want high level of expectations for our staff and our students, how are we going to get there? We need professional development. If we don't want to pull our teachers out of class, if we don't want to pay extra stipends for before school or after school, that does not cover everybody. How do we get to where we want to be? And there are going to have to be some changes. And I think that's what we are proposing to you. We are just letting you guys know this is one proposal that makes the most sense to get everybody on board. Yes, it's not perfect. As a working parent, I can speak to that, I know. But we're trying to give you as many options to say, we're aligning with RB, so if you have a high school student, that may work for childcare. We're also reaching out to the YMCA, you know, providing an extra opportunity for Thursdays. I'm not saying it's perfect, because I don't think any plan will ever be
Of which
perfect.
parents would have to pay.
And maybe that's something, if we're saving money with not using substitutes, maybe that's something we can offset. Maybe the district pays half, maybe the district covers it, depending on how many kids.
I think our direction is a little off here on this. I would want you maybe to, at least I would want you to rethink this, this approach.
Why, and can I just ask for clarification, why is our direction off if we want more professional developments but pulling less teachers out of classrooms?
Well, I'm all for professional development, but it's, and I'm all for excellence. But the kids that are missing their teachers 7 times this year or 9 times this year, they're having to sacrifice learning. And, you know, despite what you say, all teachers don't provide maybe lesson plans, 2 to 3 hour lesson plans, and I've substituted taught in some school districts where you show up and you don't have anything, okay? And I guess what I'm saying is I would like to see more of the professional development during the summer, before and after school, so it doesn't take away from class time.
So if you do that, you still have to pay what we're paying the subs, because you're gonna have to pay them.
Well, not if they do it after school, then you don't have the cost of the substitute teacher. Yes, you may have a stipend, but you don't have to pay the cost of substitute teacher.
It's actually more expensive to do a curriculum rate after school than to pay a substitute teacher.
It may be the case, but at least the kids
But
are getting
so
the quality of their teachers.
The quality
as
of
opposed to
education.
Substitute
Oh,
after substitute after
Oh, no, I
substitute,
agree.
you know?
But this model isn't putting substitutes in the classroom.
No, but I'm saying
not
what
going
we're doing
anywhere.
now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah,
arguing
yeah,
that.
yeah,
We have
yeah,
no
yeah.
argument.
I just
Yeah.
have a.
I would agree with what we're doing now is, it's hard on everyone.
We don't
Yeah.
want to continue doing what we're doing.
I just have a quick question, and then maybe we can move on. I'm not saying I don't support this, and I certainly understand the challenges. I mean, there's all
What-
kinds of them.
When do we have to make a final decision on this?
March.
Well, our
Well-
calendar needs to be approved next
Right.
board meeting, our calendar. But if we are going to go to this proposal, we would like to get information out to our community as soon as possible, saying this is potentially down the road, this is what we're doing. So they do have the time to make changes to work schedules or to childcare situations or to coordinate things with neighbors or family and
Most
friends.
people can't change their work schedule, so that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, but I don't have that.
So luxury, but I would suggest, so are we saying we're doing the hour a week plus the half days plus the institute days? All those, is that what we're suggesting would be on the table at this point?
We would be keeping the I think it's 3 institute days that the
Three, I
state
think.
requires us to
Okay.
set, and that's it. And
But-
then,
I thought you said there was required
It's
4.
4, but
There's four.
there's 3 full
Notice there
days
were three on
and 2
them.
half
oh,
days.
2 half days.
So, okay, so the hour would be in addition to the half days that are on the table now. Is that correct? Just want to make sure we understand.
Yes, because we can't, those are
Well,
from the state.
okay, so-
The half days are, wait, from the state you said?
We are required to have 4 institute days. We can do 8 half days. We could do, like what we're doing, 3 full days and 2 half days. That's what we're.
So
what
the
we-
proposed
With that time.
calendar, if we opted to run this scenario, takes off the half days? No, it's in addition to.
This does not affect the calendar.
No.
That proposal does not affect the calendar. The calendar is as is. This is an internal document that we need to make as a district. The calendar that you see in front of you is a draft that we would like you to take action on for next month. This does not have anything to do with the calendar. This is
The calendar doesn't change. It
Correct.
just, what has to change is the communication to the community
To the
about
community.
start times.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that could change is those half days could end up being a full day, right? I mean, and we have that flexibility. But that would be the time frame that is required from the state.
All right, just again, my question is, knowing how difficult this is to work with, and we talked about that if you made this professional development after school, but because you may or may not be able to require teachers to attend, depending on the collective bargaining, to what extent is a reflection on the teachers if they don't make this time available? And do they,
That's a good question. You want to make it a condition of employment or a condition
No,
of
I'm just
their
asking.
performance?
I don't, it doesn't, it just sounds like we basically said, well, if they choose, if we don't make it convenient for the teachers, then we don't have professional development. So, or not everybody gets the level of professional development we would like them to have. So it's their choice if we do it after school, maybe you get 70%. What are we allowed to officially say that choice says about the teacher's interest in their career? I'm just throwing it out.
I don't think you can because like the argument on one side that says, parents can't change their work schedules to accommodate a late start for the students once a week. We're parents too, we have obligations that we can't always make it to the after-school things. We have to go pick up our children at their schools. So there's that's the other side of the coin. So while anybody who could be there most likely would, at least that's my perception from the people I've worked with here, not everybody can all the time. There's days where, you know, I have to get my daughter to basketball practice, I gotta pick her up from Girl Scouts, whatever. If that's on a day that we're meeting after school, how can that reflect on me as I'm not a dedicated teacher because I have my family life too?
No.
Much like, that would be like us judging the parents for not being able to drop them off Thursday morning at the late start. I can't judge them as a parent. They're not a good parent or a bad parent because they can do that. That you can't have that argument.
But I will say
At all.
that too, the idea is not, and I appreciate completely what Kurt just said, but the thought process behind this was not like either or, like, let's make this easier for the teachers. And then,
No,
because of that, make it harder for, I mean, I don't know if there's a good way to do it, but contractually, this fits into.
Yeah, I just know, again, and I'm not saying I'm not gonna support this, and I know how difficult it is, but I know that people work overtime and they bring work home, and it's all, it's all very routine, and maybe, and so I'm just wondering, there's a certain, and I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that I do wonder,
if push came to shove, I would fund the stipend in the afternoon for the teachers. I mean,
For to fund the YMCA.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably
If you look
true.
at the percentage of
looking for-
families
I'm not-
that
yeah.
would use the
Looking for
service,
savings.
it would
Probably
be cheaper for that hour than it would be to pay us.
Well, but
It's easy to spend money.
the YMCA is not teaching.
No, right, you're still losing instructional time.
But I believe, does this solution in the end save us money?
Oh, yeah. there's
And
no
how
sub.
much?
We haven't
36
even,
hours special development with no sub costs.
Well,
So,
what are we paying now?
So we don't
pay
know
about
yet. I mean,
$100
like
a
right
day.
now, like Kurt said,
don't
he's
have
been out
a
of his
figure.
classroom 7 times. We don't have a complete picture of it. So 7 times for one committee. This is one committee times 26 people that are on that committee. So I'm not gonna do the math. Zach,
Well,
where are you?
It's like 700 a person.
Okay, so there's
Per year?
$700.
Per year?
per day.
For half,
Per year, the way it is right now for the CCAT alignment, yeah, let's say he's out 7 full days this year.
All right.
So it's $700 for Mr. Preble to go to the,
Per year times
$700
what,
for the
26?
sub,
It's
you're already
seven-
paying me.
But that's only
Right, no,
on the
That's
committee.
on
right.
top of
We
that.
gotta
For the
transfer
sub,
the committee work
and
to
then-
everybody else.
Yeah.
then the drop-off perhaps in teaching that occurs when you have a sub.
Yeah,
right, so with this scenario, you have no subs nor that expense.
Yeah, but you got the whole late
But you have a
start issue.
commute, but you have the community, so I mean,
Yeah,
Can
it's-
I make
it's not
a
foolproof.
suggestion, just something to throw it out
Yeah,
there?
please.
The half-days are a pain. If we can consolidate them to full days as opposed to half-days, and to somehow to work with the YMCA, work with McCook, to make sure to say, hey, can you have camps these days? And to do it maybe like, tied in with another 3-day weekend, so you have a 4-day weekend, so parents can, it's an easier time to take time off as opposed to some random half-day where they have to make arrangements. So that you're getting all that time, that professional development time in a day, consolidated into one day as opposed to 2 half-days. And that would be an easier sell for the working parents because they could take a whole work week, a whole day off. Again, maybe in conjunction with another 3-day weekend. I don't know, I can't think of any days offhand.
We tried that. We did do that. We did Halloween, because most
Okay.
parents take off, so we
But
have
that's
a half day.
right?
That's a half day.
But let's
And
make it
then-
a whole day so that you're getting the benefit of
But
the
let's
full
not
day as
do
opposed to all
Halloween.
these half
Yeah, the
days.
half
just
days
all
are-
We only
there.
have 2 half days. We only have 2 half days
Well,
this
let's-
year.
No, I thought there was like
let's-
5 or 6.
Let's take the
No.
half-days and we'll just consolidate them into full days.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
There's only
there's only two
Two half days.
All right, so then that's,
Why am I on my, on?
So you want, which day would you
5.
like to go to school on, Halloween or on November 12th?
Can I,
Am I looking
Those
at
are
the
the
wrong
two half
calendar,
days.
draft 6? It says early, there's 1, 2, 3,
That's
4, 5
crazy.
early release
Kids are
dates.
gonna die.
Yeah.
I don't like Halloween, they
never
need to
say
go to
Kids
school. I
Kids
like,
are not thinking.
What are you saying?
Education, right?
I'm
want
not, I
Halloween.
like Halloween kids in school, but it's, here nor there. I-
You guys have older students, you know.
Managed to
Concerns are
argue
slightly
Been
different
there.
than
I
elementary.
think your point's well taken.
Early release
Yeah.
days, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Can I make just a comment on the if you're thinking of moving things around?
Parent-teacher conferences, that's what they are.
But there's still early releases.
Right, so we would not have parent-teacher conferences. That's what the October,
You
October
have to
3rd is a
have those.
parent-teacher conference, October 31st is a in-service, November 13th is parent-teacher conference, January 16th is an,
Okay, but still, it's another.
is no school.
half
It should
days.
not say early release, no, that's not a, that's incorrectly noted. Monday, January 16th is Martin Luther King Day, that's a full day off. February 13th is a full day institute day, so they're not correctly coded on early release days.
So
That's
there's
our
3
mistake.
half-days? Is that right?
There are 3 half days, 2 for conferences and 1 for institute day on Halloween.
Right. Can I ask, where are we going? What do you have to go? You want us to vote on this next week?
Next month, we
Or
would.
next month, rather.
Next month, we'll get the correct early release days written, but right now, there's only 3.
All right, so you'll, and then we vote on it next month at the same time. What information do you put out there to get some reaction to the parent from the community on the early release days? Sort of what happens between today and,
Parents already know, I already got emails, they already knew about this calendar change. It was leaked out.
What do they say?
They don't like it.
I'd like
The
to do
thing,
it.
you know, most parents don't like it. Now you're taking those 2 days. What I think people object to, at least the feedback I get, is they don't like the 2 days of Thanksgiving being taken out, because a lot of people like to have that flexibility to leave, or President's Day is another big weekend that people like to plan getaways. I don't know. I don't envy this task at all. I see it both ways. My mind isn't made up either way, but it'll be interesting to see what other parent feedback comes in. I can't say yes or no either way. I'm bothered about the Thursday morning 1 hour late start date as a parent, because I'll be up in a bind on those Thursdays.
What about everybody else?
Unless my entrepreneurial side says that I will have daycare over at my.
So the,
Zach Gator over there.
I'm terrible at it. Brian, are you getting feedback from people already?
You know what, we wanted to, I know that Mr. Bryan said that it leaked out, and I know it has as well, but we didn't want to do too much without talking to the board first.
Sure, it happens. I don't envy the task, because, I see Mr. Preble's argument that, go after school. Now we're interfering on their plans. Just, I don't know.
But I look at the long term of it too. I mean, the short term, it doesn't look like it's gonna be much of a benefit one way or the other. We say we could, pay the curriculum rate to the teachers after school, but this is something that's designed to not just be like a one and done and go away. This is something to continue on, year after year. And I look at something like the response to intervention, or RTI model. That's gonna bring in benefits where we have additional time to meet with teachers to actually put interventions in place that work. Get rid of the ones that don't, because ultimately what that's going to do, and I'm going to speak a little out of school here, but it's going to reduce the amount of, hopefully, the amount of special education that there is, and that's a huge expense. We hear about this every month. Special education is a big budget item.
It's huge.
Well, RTI is there for that reason, so that hopefully we can start helping students to the point where they're not, they don't qualify. Thank you. It's getting late, I'm not using my words. They're not qualifying. We're capturing them and helping them out before it gets to that point, which is going to save a ton of money in the long run. So, ultimately, when we're talking about success of our students, you hate to put money in the same sentence, but ultimately that's what it comes down to in the long run.
Questions the work you guys are doing. I didn't
You are
mean to
going to
interrupt.
save a ton of money
I
doing
understand,
it
we
this way.
understand that, and we don't doubt that for a second, or the importance of professional development ever, and that's not the issue, it's just making it fit in the framework of how does it work for the everyday working family. We need to find a happy medium somewhere, so that's the only question that's out there. No, these are great, you guys are making great strides, and I'm happy to see all this is happening.
So, we've got a newspaper reporter, and certainly he'll likely write about this. And so,
He's asleep.
we will,
No, you woke up, somebody woke up.
we'll likely get some feedback in the next 30 days. I would hope, Bob. Anyway.
I think.
Can I
think
just
it's time
make
to
one other
Move
calendar
on, huh?
comment? The thought process behind how you put half-days in the calendar, I'm curious of. I really believe if you have solid blocks of 5-day weeks and then you have a crazy week, that it really makes teaching and learning solid and better for the kids. And so like I look at November, where we've got 2 days and then we have a week and then we have 2 days. I wonder how effective
November will be.
November will be. If to Mike's
Sure.
point, if you just make Thanksgiving week the 5-day week and you have 3 full teaching weeks of 5 days, is that a stronger calendar? And I wonder that. I mean, I think it's hard when you have 2 days and what happens? Do we do good learning? Do we do good teaching in weeks when the kids know they've only got 2 days? And my guess is not as good as 5-day weeks.
And you're right on that. Most likely they don't have any data to back it up or any evidence. However, I think the feedback from teachers were that most parents go away on the 24th and 25th, so they don't attend those conferences. So they are meeting with parents on their own time before that week or after that week. And some people have asked to get reimbursed for that. And I'm talking not just 1 or 2, 6 to 8 parents out of a
Can you
classroom of
make
25.
those institute days? Or is that just not good to bank them?
One that has been an institute.
In the past, right.
This year.
It was this year, right?
Mhm.
And Tuesday was the institute.
I mean, I'm not
Wednesday,
saying,
yes.
I
Yeah,
just
Wednesday.
think it's a
Tuesday.
good goal to strive for, because I think it's, you've got some similar choppiness going on in October, and I just think you lose the kids after, 2 weeks of choppiness, it's hard to get them
I
refocused.
think it's a good point.
So, it's just, it's just an observation.
So you're saying that's not a possible solution?
I mean, we could, but
But-
there's no perfect solution. There's always going to be an issue of, people wanting to take certain days off for the
Right, and
holiday.
we have to make the decision of who's gonna be on the short end, right?
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Right.
Right, and I tend to try to make the kids get the best bang for
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
what we can do.
I think that's the driving force behind the proposal, is their focus on the students, the long-term returns that they're gonna get from this kind of model. Now they're being asked to think about the working families, and everything, that which is now it's a shift in focus, so.
They got
So
just a
what-
factor to take into consideration.
And it absolutely is, please know, we agree 100%. And which is why we've started conversations with the YMCA. But
then we have to look also at our mission. What are we as a board, what are we striving for? Or is it about the convenience of the working family, or is it about the students and achieving our mission and delivering academic excellence and providing them with the best environment so they can develop those critical thinking skills and that creativity and all those things those life skills that they need to succeed in life.
I think we have
So.
to think about both.
All right.
But
we go-
again, there's compromises, someone's gonna have to get the short end. I mean, it's just the
Good
way it is,
compromise,
it's just
they
the way it is.
Both sides get the short end. That's how they say
Oh,
good compromises.
do we want to give the students any short end?
No, we don't.
So.
We don't want the students
So.
to need the short end.
And they won't.
All right, well, we vote on it next month. We'll have to consider it.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
maybe in the interim, just to get feedback, we could put together some type of a survey to go out to parents and just see how many parents would really be impacted by this.
Sure, I'd like to see that.
Right. Thank you, I'm taking over for the moment. Thank you,
Oh,
everyone. Have a good
a
night.
coup.
Thanks for coming in. Got the gavel. All right, can I get a motion to enter into closed? Are we done? We have more? I'm sorry, keep your dates.
4,
I,
we're guiding
you know what?
principles.
I did share
did.
with Mary Rose that we're gonna table that and prepare it for a different meeting. Guiding principles, action planning.
Okay. And should I announce the future meeting dates?
Yes.
Yes.
February 4th, 2014 is a special meeting of technology and infrastructure at 7 p.m. in the Learning Resource Center at Hauser. February 11th of 2014 is the Education Committee meeting at 7 p.m. in the Learning Resource Center at Hauser Junior High School. February 18th, 2014 is a policy committee meeting at 6 p.m. in the Learning Resource Center at Hauser Junior High. February 18th, 2014, a regular business meeting at 7:30 p.m. at the Learning Resource Center at Hauser. And at March 4th, 2014, Finance Committee meeting at 7 p.m. in the Learning Resource Center here. March 18th, Policy Committee meeting at 6 p.m. in the Learning Resource Center at Hauser Junior High. And March 18th.
Shouldn't that be 19th?
Yes, I was just gonna say, isn't
Which
that the
one?
date? The March 18th?
Has been moved to March 19th.
19th, correct.
Okay, correction.
I'm sorry if we didn't tell you, but
Okay, March
we moved it to a Wednesday for that week only.
Did we really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was such a request. I guess when the time comes, we gotta remind everybody, send them multiple
Yeah,
emails.
whatever the
Okay.
regular
And
meeting.
we'll update it to the
Same
calendar.
thing,
You want to take over?
Yeah, I think all we have to do at this point is adjourn to closed session. I have a motion to adjourn to closed session, and I'm supposed to read this, have it written today? The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. May I have a...
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Randy Brockway,
Yes.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
David Kadama,
Aye.
Rachel Morella,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Arthur Perry, and Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.